Thank you. Good morning. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge we're in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Ojibwa, Innu, Cree, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. I'll introduce the members of the panel. Via Zoom is Ms. Gail Anderson and Mr. Kent Seelan. My name is Stu McPherson. I'll be chairing the hearing today. The secretary for today's hearing is Mr. Jaswinder Kumar, and representing the Assessment Taxation Department is Mr. Darren Ducharme. We'll be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application. We'll limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony. Anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Please be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by council. It's independent of it and the city administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note the board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I'll confirm the points of appeal with the property to be addressed following the swearing in. We'll then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they so wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave and the process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all the applications have been heard and the board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You'll receive the board's decision by registered mail as soon as possible. Just as information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We'll be hearing items 1 to 8 on our docket today. Mr. Kumar, would you please affirm the assessor and the applicant's testimony?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Assessor, please state your full name.
Darren Charles Ducharme.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please, sir. Mr. Van Bruggen, please state your full name.
Wesley Van Bruggen.
Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you.
Please, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, gentlemen. The first item we're going to deal with is number 1 on the docket, 408 McGregor. And I understand it's liability and the assessed value that's under appeal. So Mr. Van Bruggen, the liability, the onus is on the applicant, which would be you, and you would be going first on that matter. But before we do that, we'll have the assessor just read the file into record before we deal with the issue of liability. So Mr. Ducharme, if you would just give us the file number, roll number, and what we're dealing with as far as the reference date.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. File number is 22-818. The roll number is 140-435-87500. The address is 408 McGregor Street for the roll year 2023 with a reference date April 1st, 2021. We have an assessed value at $891,000 with a classification of 60T.
Thank you. So, Mr. Van Bruggen, if you'd like to proceed with your evidence on the liability matter, please.
So sounds good. And just to confirm, Mr. Chair, so the only thing I'll be presenting is the information on liability, and then we'll switch when it comes to then we'll do valuation second. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Excellent. Thank you very much. If the board will turn with me, did you want me to read into did you want me to discuss the details, physical details of the property, or just jump straight to the question of liability?
If you think that the description of the property is going to help with your case on the liability matter.
Okay.
And so you can keep that as brief as you want. The assessor will be doing the physical characteristics when we get to the quantum.
Fair enough. Okay, well, and I'll just just a quick run through. The subject property is a two-story concrete retail unit constructed in 1974 with a leasable area of 77,071 square feet. The property has been assessed at a value of 891,000, valued using the income approach to value. If the board will jump with me to page 16 of my brief, and you can just let me know when you're there.
Page 16, headed exemption.
Yes, please. So the subject property is occupied by fully occupied by Métis Child, Family and Community Services. It's M&P's position that the property would qualify for school tax exemption under either under section 23(1)D or section 23(1)G of the Assessment Act. Just for the board's reference, section 23(1)D of the Assessments Act indicates is owned by or held in trust for and is used by a college or seminary of learning to a maximum exemption of 1.62 hectares. And 23(1)G is indicating is used for a missionary purpose or other charitable or educational purpose in connection with Indian missions to a maximum exemption of 0.81 hectares. If the board will turn with me to page 17, we have the request for a review for property tax exemption for this particular property. Here, the board will note the municipal address of 408 McGregor Street, the rule as identified as 14043587500. And again, you can see here on this application, we are indicating that the property should be exempt under section 23(1)G. You can see that the owner of the property is Winnipeg Métis Association, Louis Riel Capital Corporation. And when we roll down here, you can see that the property was occupied September 1st, 2015. So all through the time frame in question, it had been occupied. It also indicates that the organization is occupying the entire property. When we take a look at section 2, organization information, we can see the organization name is Métis Child, Family and Community Services, and the mandate is to deliver mandated child and family services to Métis people, including prevention, protection, and guardianship services. So in our position that when we take a look at section 23(1)G is used for missionary purposes or either charitable or educational purposes in connection with Indian missions, and we take a look at the purpose and mandate of the Métis Child, Family and Community Services, we feel that would line up with that mandate would line up with the requirements there to provide, in providing educational and charitable services. Additionally, when the board looks down, we can see act under which organization is registered as a non-for-profit organization. The act is respecting First Nations, Inuit, Métis, child, youth, and families. I've provided the act later on in the submission, and I'll point the board to it when we get there. If the board looks down to page 16, we can see that is any income or profits from the organization paid to a member shareholder of the organization other than wages? They've indicated no. We can see here on page point 3 that there is no retail use of the space. It's fully being used for the operations of Métis Child and Family Services. If the board moves with me to the next point, page 4, or point 4, property use information. We can see the facilities on the property are Métis Child and Family Services. The time is open is a general 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. We see that there's no prevention from anyone using the facility, and it is open to the general public. So there's no restrictions on that site. And then we can see that this has been signed by the executive director for Métis Child and Family Services. If the board will turn with me, continuing on, if the board will turn with me to starting on page 32, please. And just let me know when you're there.
33.
Starting page, so it should be page 32 in the PDF. Bottom right-hand number should be 32 of 111.
That's the one children's special allowance.
Yes, yeah. So this is from the website. This is from the Métis Child and Family Services website. This is information that we collected and provided to the city of Winnipeg when requesting the exemption for this particular property. If the board will flip with me to page 35, please. And if the board can just let me know when you're there.
Yes, we're there.
Thank you. So here we can see in terms of about, so if the board just references the vision, so the Métis family and community is the cornerstone of our nation and is built upon love, respect, honor, strength, and heritage. When we take a look at the mission, Métis families and communities have the right and responsibility to care for children. Métis children, family, and community service will work to strengthen the capacity of families to care for children through culturally relevant, community-based programs. We believe in the inherent strength of our families and in the need to build on the capacity of our community to care for and nurture Métis children. If the board will turn with me, so that those extracts from the website run until page 37. The board turns with me to page 37. Sorry, if the board will turn me to page 38, perhaps might be the next logical point. And just let me know when you're there.
That's our vision statement.
Yes, so we have here the annual report. So the Métis Child, Family, and Community Services annual report from for April 1st, 2020 to March 31st, 2021. When we take a look at the vision statement, we can see the mission is very similar to what we had read originally. When we take a look at the guiding principles, Métis families and communities are point 1, Métis families and communities are the cornerstone of the Métis nation, and the service delivery system must reflect this vision. Point 2, responsibility for decision making regarding Métis children and families lies with the family, extended family, and community wherever possible. Point 3, the organizational structure promotes and supports community guidance at all levels. Point 4, the service delivery system will encompass both formal and informal elements. Point 5, the service delivery system must be operated in an efficient and effective manner. And point 6, the service delivery system will be the outcome based on reflecting the core guiding principles of MCFCS. So again, we take a look, we can see that this is clearly tied to providing supports to the community, to the Métis community and the family within that organization, within those communities. So again, we take a look, there's clearly that charitable and educational component tied there with the Indian missions, as indicated by section 23(1)(g) of the Assessment Act. Continuing on through this document, the full document, MP has provided that full document that continues on to page 65. It just highlights all the work that's been done, providing a lot of information about the organization, the work that's being done in terms of supporting families and how that's been reflected. And then the board will turn with me to page 66 when you get a moment, please.
'66, that's the Act Respecting First Nations.
It is, yes. An act respecting First Nations, Inuit, and Métis children, youth, and families. So this is, we provided this act there for the board's reference. If the board turns with me to page 75. And just let me know there.
It's a little hard to read, they're kind of superimposed. 75.
Oh, yes, I apologize. Yes, that is
the one middle of the
should,
page, best interests of Indigenous child.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
It should be the height. Yes, exactly correct, Mr. Chair. So we should see best interest of Indigenous child, point 10. The best interest of the child must be a primary consideration in making decisions or taking of action in the context of provision of child and family services in relation to an Indigenous child, and in the case of decisions and actions related to child apprehension, the best interest of the child must be the paramount consideration. The next point is the primary considerations. Page 76 outlines the factors to be considered that must be looked at. If the board turns with me, and that act continues on until page 86. So in taking a look at this, it would be M&P's position that when we take a look at the requirements under legislation, that the work for the Métis Child and Family Services would fall within section 23(1)G, as it clearly indicates that they are providing education for families, as well as taking care of families, and in connection with that act from the government, and as such, it should qualify for a school tax exemption. With that, I conclude that component and welcome any questions from the board or from the assessment department. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Ducharme, do you have any questions for the applicant regarding the liability?
We have no questions. Our department is in agreement for the liability change from 6PT to 240S. The organization, Métis Child, Family and Community Services, is a registered charity with the Canadian Revenue Agency, and based on review of the applications evidence and based on the registrations, we're satisfied that it meets the legislative definition under MAA 23(1)G, which states a property is exempt from taxation for school purposes, where the real property is used for a missionary purpose or other charitable or organizational purpose in connection with Indian missions, to a maximum of 0.81 hectares, which is roughly equivalent to 87,187 square feet.
So that would cover the entire property then, is that right, Mr. Assessor?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
it's all within, yes.
Thank you. Any questions, Ms. Anderson?
No, I just in regards to the liability, then it's liability to school tax, right? Like there'll be a school tax exemption?
Yes, 40S.
Okay.
Class
And
So
it will be effective for 2023?
yes.
Okay. Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So this is basically what you're seeking, Mr. Van Bruggen. You're in agreement 40S for the entire property?
Yes, that is.
Okay, I thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, let's deal with the quantum or the amount of assessed value. So Mr. Ducharme, when you're ready, we'll hear your evidence regarding that, please.
Okay, thank you. The property, I'll start with, I guess where I left off. The parcel use is CMRST. The zoning is C1. We have a leasable area of 7,071 square feet for the property, and our recommendation is to maintain the assessed value. On page 2 of my brief, the top photo is a parcel view of the subject property on McGregor Street at the corner of St. John Avenue. The property is located in the Inkster Faraday neighborhood and in close proximity to Mountain Avenue. On the bottom, page 2 is an aerial photo of the subject property facing McGregor Street. On page 3, the top is a picture, aerial view of the subject property from behind the subject property. And the middle and bottom of page 3 are street view photos of the front of the subject property. On page 4, we have our subject sales history. There is no sales history for the subject property. And below that, we have our rent comparables. Several of the comparables are in close proximity to the subject property and zoned commercial, which is similar to the subject property. On page 5 is our subject property income workup with a leasable area of 7,071 square feet, with a rent of $13.24 per square foot, we arrive at a potential rent of $93,620. We've applied a 6% vacancy, giving an effective gross income of $88,003. We have a 3% expense and a $7 per square foot shortfall, giving a net operating income of $82,393. And we've applied an overall cap rate of 9.25%, giving an estimated value of $891,000 rounded. On page 6 is our cap rate charts. And you note that cap rate that we've applied at 9.25 is above the 80th percentile applied for all retail properties for all reports. On page 7 is the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. Pages 8 through 17 are the income and expense questionnaires we received back from the owners. You know, the owners have reported a net rent income of $95,040 on page 12, which is very similar to our model value of $93,620. And that would conclude my presentation. Thank you. Ready for questions.
Thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, questions for the assessor?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So if we can turn to page 4, please, of your submission. So taking a look at the lease comparables, you know, I noticed that you've got some on Henderson Highway, which would you agree would be quite a bit heavier in terms of traffic flow?
I agree, yes.
So would Henderson Highway probably be considered a more superior location for a retail property?
Certainly in terms of the traffic, yes, and in general, yes.
In general, okay. All right. And then also when we take a look, I see that there, you know, the property has been assessed with a rent of $13.24. I see a number of the leases you're bringing forward are in the $12 range. Again, which would, as we take a look at this, it does appear that that $12 or $12.50 would be a little more reasonable. Would you agree that that rent may be a little bit high for the property?
At $13.24, not necessarily. You know, some of these are older or could be time adjusted sales. I don't know, not necessarily.
Okay. Do you know if any of these are 2-story buildings?
I don't believe so, if I recall.
For a retail property, would you say that the second story of a retail property would generate the same rent as the first story?
No, generally less.
Generally less. Okay. All right. All right. I think that concludes my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, questions for the assessor?
Yes, just in regards to the cap rate of 9.25, you said that was the 80th percentile? Above, yeah. Just wishing to confirm that's model driven, am I correct?
That's correct, yes.
That's correct. And so that's the higher range of where the cap rate would be on a retail property?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, those are all my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan, questions?
Sure. I'm just curious. Why did you choose this cap rate? Why did you go so high?
I didn't, it's a model driven cap rate.
So it's purely model driven here.
Yes.
What do you consider this building? Is retail? Is it regional? Is it a strip? Is it power center neighborhood?
Sorry, are you referring to our chart?
Yes, I'm referring to your chart.
Our cap rate chart?
Yes, on page 6, your cap rate chart.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I would, it's not particularly defined. I would tend towards the regional.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the entire valuation is model generated, is that correct?
This one, yes, it is, yes.
And are there any, I guess, first of all, I'm assuming you didn't have an opportunity to inspect the property.
I did not know.
Do you have any notations as to the condition or anything of that sort?
If I recall correctly, it's just been maintained, nothing. There has been no, if I recall correctly, no significant investments in terms of renovation.
Okay, so it's fairly indicative of a 1974 property then? Is that your
Yeah.
opinion?
Yes, that'd be a good way, yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, when you're ready, let's hear your evidence regarding the valuation of the property, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. If the board will turn with me to page 3. So as mentioned, the property has been assessed at a value of $891,000. MVP is requesting a value of $803,000. The board will turn with me to page 5, please. On page 5, we have a requested value for the property. In terms of the parameters that are different, so MP has used the $93,620 for the potential income. The 6% vacancy rate applies to the property, a $3 expense allowance, and the $7 shortfall allowance. The difference here is in terms of the capitalization rate. The property has been assessed with a 9.25% capitalization rate. MP is requesting a 10.25% capitalization rate, resulting in that value of $803,000 for that property. If the board will turn with me, page 7, we have the information from the City of Winnipeg Assessment Department outlining the valuation of this property. And if we move to page 9, we have a map, assessment map providing just the location as indicated by the Assessment Department on that location of that property. Page 10, we have a satellite view of that property as well. Page 11, we have some overhead views, and page 12, we have some street level views. Again, exterior street level views of that property. The board will turn with me to page 13. So on page 13, we have our information regarding our capitalization rate study for this particular property. So in doing our capitalization rate study, MMP has identified 7 different properties within the area that we feel would be reasonable comparables. These are primarily retail-based properties. We take a look at the size. They are a little smaller than the subject property. We have properties that are ranging in size from about 1,144 square feet all the way up to 3,432 square feet. The sales of these properties have taken place between 2017 and 2021. And we take a look at the sale prices. The sale prices of these properties range from a low of about $135,000 up to a high of $300,000. To generate a capitalization rate, as much as MMP would love to have the income for these properties, unfortunately, that's not necessarily the case or possible. We were unable to gather that information. So what we've done is very similar to what the City of Winnipeg has done in their calculation of capitalization rates. We've applied what we feel would be an appropriate rental rate to these properties. Those rental rates range from $10 to $13 a square foot. Considered the vacancy and applied a 6% vacancy across the board, 3% non-recoverable, and $7 per square foot shortfall. Using this, we've calculated the net operating income of each one of these properties. These net operating incomes range from $9,951 all the way to a high of $34,392. Dividing these calculated net operating incomes by the sale price, we get our calculated capitalization rates. As you can see, our calculated capitalization rates range from a low of 7.37% to a high of 12.34%. Understanding that properties sell for a variety of different reasons within the market, there's certainly different considerations when looking and purchasing properties. So to look at that, keeping that in mind, we've taken a look at some measures of central tendency. We've looked at the average. So the average for the properties, average capitalization rate for the properties is 10.26%, and the median is 10.93%. Again, in this case, we feel that it'd probably be better to be using more properties as there is a bit of a range. So we're relying on the average capitalization rate of 10.25% to come up with what our requested capitalization rate is for those properties, or for the property, what a reasonable capitalization rate would be for their property. The board turns with me to page 14. On page 14, we've also looked at these sales on a per square foot basis. So the benefit of the per square foot basis approach is we're not making any assumptions in terms of rents or vacancy rates for the properties. Here we can see that the subject property has been assessed at a value of $891,000, which equates to a value of $126 per square foot. So that's a blended value of $126 per square foot because it obviously takes into consideration the upper and lower floors. When we take a look at sales of similar properties, we can see the sales of these similar properties range from $70 to $122 a square foot. We provided those in the table there, and we can, again, taking a look at the measures of central tenancy, we're calculating an average of 97.39 and 99.73 when it comes to the average and median. MVP's proposed value of $803,000 results in a value of $113 per square foot, so a blended value of $113 a square foot. When we take a look at this, it falls comfortably to the upper end of that range. And again, MVP believes that that valuation of $803,000 would be a reasonable value to the property, regardless of how we look at it. If the board turns with me to page 15, we provided a map of those comparable properties that we've utilized. So you can see the property at 408 McGregor Street is the red pin in the middle of the page. Then you can see that we have, there's property at 830 Mountain, 95 Selkirk, 871 Redwood, 217 to 219 Selkirk, 1700 Logan, as well as the remaining properties. So located in fairly close proximity to the subject property when we're looking at those comparables. If the board will flip with me, continuing on to page 20. And just let me know when you're there.
And that is your conclusion?
Yeah, so here we have, again, the valuation. You can see our value has been calculated using that 10.25% capitalization rate to result in the capitalized value of $803,833, truncated to $803,000. If the board will turn with me to page 26. Let's give the board a moment to get there.
Those photographs?
Yes, so on page 26, we have the pictures of the comparable properties that we've used in our analysis. So the first is 830 Mountain Ave. You can see it's a single story building with a retail use. The next one below that is 595 Selkirk. Again, similar single story building with a retail use. We have on page 27, 871 Redwood Avenue. As well as 217 to 219 Selkirk Ave, both single story buildings. You can see both have a retail use. On page 28, we have 1700 Logan. Page 29, we have 832 Burroughs. And then finally on page 30, we have 1784 Logan. So again, when we take a look at each of these properties, we can see that these properties all have a retail use, are all single story when we've taken a look at them. So we've tried to gather properties that are located within a similar area to the subject property, as well as similar use to the subject property. They are obviously all a little smaller than the subject property, but it's primarily because the subject property is 2-story versus these properties being 1-story. The board doesn't have to jump there, but just to let the board know, starting on page 88, moving to page 110, we have the information from the City of Winnipeg Assessment Department, so valuation of income producing properties for the 2023 general assessment. So general information there if there are questions that crop up. With that, that concludes my presentation. I welcome any questions from the board or from the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ducharme, any questions of the applicant?
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Ms. Anderson, any questions?
Just in regards to the comparables of properties, some of them were quite a lot older, 1913. Just wondering in regards to quality of property, if you see that as being comparable to the subject property.
I think they are, because a lot of these properties have had quite extensive updates. So for example, a great example would be, if you look on the bottom of the table that we provide on page 13, we have the sale of 1784 Logan. You can see that property is a 1936 year of construction, 2,240 square feet. Now the board turns with me to page 30 of my submission. You just let me know when you're there.
Okay,
So you can see here that we have an exterior view of that property at 1784 Logan. So again, you can see that there have been quite a few updates to this property over the years. So where it might be 1930s, you know, the physical year might be 1936. There's clearly. Oh, hello?
It's the TV.
Okay, all right. Okay, sorry. The TV just went blank. I wasn't sure.
oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, so clearly there's been quite a few updates along the way to keep these properties, you know, in reasonable functioning shape. So certainly when we take, that's why we provided those pictures for the board's reference of those properties. They certainly are all functioning, would be probably very similar in terms of the being able to attract a similar tenant to the subject property.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan, questions?
Sure, just for clarification, is there a reason why you chose single-story properties as opposed to two-story properties? Because as I understand, the subject property is 2 stories.
Absolutely. So one of the challenges, as much as I'd love to have every single building in the city sell every year, which I'm sure would probably make all our lives a lot easier, it's a function of what's available. So we had to make a determination of what would be more is more important, whether it be the area of the city or the use of the property. So ultimately, we determined that it was probably better to be looking at retail properties in closer proximity to the subject property versus going further afoot to see if we can find 2-story buildings. So that's, it was more just a decision of what would be the best comparables and which aspects would be most important.
Have you toured this building?
I have not, no.
No? Okay. What's your relative opinion based on your information of the actual condition?
My understanding is it's a reasonable condition. Again, similar to what the assessment department has said, or the assessor has indicated, the property has been reasonably upkept and is functioning well for the purposes that it's being used as. In this case, it's being used as an office for the Métis Child and Family Services. But there's been general upkeep to the property along the way. So in keeping in condition with what you'd expect for a property of this age.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Just on your capitalization rate estimation here on page 13, I can appreciate that you don't have the rental rates for the properties, and what you've attempted to do is reconstruct it using primarily the assessment department's model, but using rental rates. Where did you determine those rental rates? Like you said, they're reasonable, but based on what?
You bet. Unfortunately, when we take a look at the property, our property has been assessed with a rental rate of $14.25. That's the model generated rent for the area. We can see the rent comparables brought forward by the assessment department are kind of in that $12 to $16 rental rate range. So when we took a look at that, we took a look at both the property performance, how our property has been assessed, the rents the property is generating, as well as kind of getting a sense for the area. And you can see that the rents that we've used are kind of range from $10 to $13. So, I mean, there's probably an argument that we've been a little conservative when applying the rental rates. But again, we could have probably boosted those up a little bit, but we just wanted to give a sense of what we felt would be a reasonable rental rate for these spaces. So again, I think that those rents between 10 and 13 are probably, given the information available, pretty indicative of what we see would be appropriate for the area.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ducharme, desire for summation on this property?
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Van Bruggen,
I don't think there's any need. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
thank you. Okay, so we can move on to the second item on our docket, which is 1840 Arlington. So when you're ready, Mr. Assessor, we'll hear from you, please.
Thank you. This file number is 22-561. The roll number is 140-619-37100. The address is 1840 Arlington Street. For the roll year 2023, with a reference date of April 1st, 2021, we have an assessed value of $803,000. The parcel use is CMRST. The actual year built 1958. We have an effective year built 1985. Zoning is C1. We have a leasable area of 5,600 square feet. We do have a recommendation to decrease the assessed value to $674,000.
Before you continue, were you aware of this, Mr. Van Bruggen?
I did find out yesterday evening, yesterday later in the day. I did try to reach out to the client to find out if it was that was acceptable. Unfortunately, given the time frame, I didn't hear back from the client in time. So, well, I don't have client permission to accept, unfortunately.
Okay, so then we'll proceed then when you're ready, Mr. Ducharme.
Thank you. On page 2, at the top is a big aerial parcel view of the subject property on Arlington Street at the corner of Lexington and Olson Avenue in the Robertson neighborhood. And on the bottom of page 2 is an aerial photo of the subject property. Top of page 3, and another aerial photo of the subject property from a different angle. The middle of page 3, we have a street view picture approaching the subject property on Arlington. And the bottom of page 3 is a street view picture of the subject property facing Arlington. On to page 4, we have the subject sales history. The subject did sell July 4th, 2013 for $550,000. This has been determined to be an arm's length sale by unrelated parties. Our notes indicate there was an opinion of value sought by the vendor, which was provided by 3 realtors, around $550,000. Grocery store pictures were included in the sale, but it was determined to be of almost no value, according to our records. Below that, we have the rent comparables. There were limited sales of standalone buildings of this size. The comparables provided are the same parcel use of the subject and same zoning as the subject property. On page 5, we have our subject property market income workup. This is being changed with a recommendation that we've made, and I'll note those due to the changing. So what we did is we changed the effective year built from 1985 back to 1958. After further review, we determined the property has simply received typical maintenance. According to our records, there's no permits indicating any significant improvements to the property. And that's why we've changed the effective date on. It's possible there might have been a clerical error. Instead of 1985, it might have been 1950, or instead of 1958, someone might have accidentally put in 1985 as an effective year built. So going back to our subject market income workup, we have a leasable area of 5,600 square feet. The rent per square foot has changed from $14.53 to $12.81, giving a potential rent of, instead of $81,368, we now have $71,736. We've applied a vacancy loss of 6%, giving an effective gross income, which has changed from $76,486 to $67,432. Expenses remain the same at 3%, with a shortfall at $7 per square foot. The net operating income has changed from 71,839 to 63,057. And the overall cap rate changed from 8.95 to 9.35. And we have an estimated value that has changed from 803,000 to 674,000. Page 6, we have our capitalization rate chart. On page 7, our Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. On pages 8 and 9, we have the income and expense questionnaire we received back from the owner, and this property is owner occupied. And that would conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, Mr. Van Bruggen?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So in terms of the property, with those changes then, so on page 4, these leases then would you say they're still relevant to be used, or are they less relevant?
I'd say they're still relevant. A lot of some are older, or we have one in 1950 with an effective year built. But some of them are newer, so less so.
So just then, just for a quick question, for that property with 1950, that's located on Portage Ave, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, and would Portage Ave, in your opinion, be a better location compared to the subject property?
Yes, it would be.
Okay, all right. Thank you. That concludes my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, any questions?
Just in regards to the property, wondering when the last inspection of this property was?
Honestly, I'm not sure. I did not inspect the property, and I don't recall if I made any notes from the last. I have no notes as to when the last inspection they've been, sorry, from our department.
Okay, so the recommendation then, just a question in regards to the recommendation to reduce, is it model generated after you changed the year from 1985 to 1958?
Yes, that was model generated once the year was changed, correct.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions. Thanks for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan?
Just to confirm, the recommended value is 674,000.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, and I have no questions. Mr. Van Bruggen, when you're ready, we'll hear from you, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. If the board will turn with me to page 3 of our submission, we'll get started. So as mentioned, the subject property is a 1-story wood frame retail building constructed in 1958 with an assessed effective year of 1985, which has clearly been changed. The gross leasable area of the property is 5,600 square feet, and the assessed value of the property was $803,000 originally when we were taking a look at this. The income value was approach was used to derive the value. MP is requesting a value of $616,000 for this property. The board will turn with me to page 5. On page 5, we have our request here. So the request change is based on a change to the potential income of the property. The property has been assessed with had originally been assessed with a value with potential income of $81,368. MP is requesting income of $63,000 for that space for that property, resulting using the same vacancy rate, capitalization rate, expense ratio, and expense allowance, resulting in a requested market value of $616,000 for that property. Page 7, we have the valuation for the property provided by the city of Winnipeg. That continues on to page 8. Page 8 provides a little more detail for the commercial section. You can see that is a wood frame building, 1958 year construction, 14-foot clear wall height on that building. Page 9 is a map provided by the City of Winnipeg Assessment Department. Page 10 and 11 are some overhead views, and page 12 are some street level views of that property. If the board will turn with me to page 14, So I'll start on page 14 and then I'll jump back to page 13 in a moment here. So the property has been assessed at a value of $143 per square foot, which represents a 30.57% increase from the previous assessment cycle. Sorry, I should clarify, that's the original value of $143 per square foot. I haven't worked through what the revised value would be on that. So the original value, 143 square foot. There's a limited number of sales for freestanding buildings in the area. M&P has identified 5 sales. These sales are retail with residential components in the properties. Or apartment buildings. So again, we've broadened the range a little bit. So we're looking at retail with apartment uses. We've taken a look at the building area. These building areas range from a low of 4,064 square feet to a high of 6,660 square feet. The sales transacted between December 2018 to May 2021. And we take a look at the sale prices. We can see the sale prices of these properties range from $185,000 to $700,000. When we take a look, we can see that the sale price per square foot for these properties range from $41.02 all the way up to $110 per square foot, with an average and a median of $84 for the average and a median of $99. Again, as indicated, our subject property had initially been valued at $143 per square foot. If we take a look, starting on page 13, we've taken a look at the City of Winnipeg's traffic maps. Hopefully this comes across for the board. I recognize that some of these numbers are probably a little bit small, and I do apologize for that when we were taking a look. So what we found was we identified each one of the comparable properties and where they're located. So we have 1803 Main Street, obviously located on Main. So when we take a look at the traffic count along that area, it's about 57,900 cars in a 24-hour period. The subject property you'll see as identified as 1840 Arlington. So Arlington, we can see that in that area that we're seeing traffic counts, we're kind of at the 9,700 square feet or 9,700 cars per hour, and at that 17,000, 23,000 cars per hour mark there. So on Inkster Boulevard. So we're quite a bit lower than what we see for the cars on Main Street. So when it comes to retail, it would be our position that that property at 1803 Main would be considered a superior property. Then we take a look at 1330 Main Street. Same thing. Again, when we take a look at the traffic count within the area here, we're over 50,000 cars in a 24-hour period. And then we take a look at 93999 Selkirk Ave. This is probably a little more comparable with 9,100 cars in a 24-hour period. Finally, we take a look at the last comparable, which is 333 William Ave. We can see that this is roughly in the 8,000 to 10,000 cars in a 24-hour period. So again, we was taking a look at these and taking a look at the traffic counts on these particular properties. Oops.
I'm sorry, we lost you there for a moment.
Oh, all right. Sorry about that. Yeah, you know what? I did stop talking for a moment. So that was probably me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was me stop talking. So the board turns back to page 14. So when we take a look at this, we see 393, 399 Selkirk and 33 to 335 William both occurred on streets with similar 24-hour traffic counts, whereas Main Street is a main arterial road with quite a bit more traffic. When we take a look at this, it would be our position, considering these sales, that when we take a look, the property on Selkirk sold for $98 a square foot. The property on William sold for $105 a square foot, and we see there's a property in Arlington that sold for $41 a square foot. So in taking a look at these, it would be our position that a value of $616,000 would be reasonable, which would equate to a value of $110 per square foot for the property as we're taking a look at it. So when taking a look at that and considering it, what we've done is we've applied, we can take a look at $110 a square foot. In our case, we've applied a reduced rental rate of $11.25 to that property to reduce the potential income to $63,000 and arrive at a requested value of $616,000 for that property. The board jumping to page 20, here are pictures of the properties that we've used as comparables. So we can see the property at 399 Selkirk Ave. We can see below that a property at 333 to 335 William Ave. Oh, are we frozen?
I can hear you.
were for a second, but I think you're okay now.
Is everyone okay?
I think so. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah,
Checking.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
No, it's all gone.
Is it all?
Yeah, I think we're okay.
Yeah, we can hear you, but
We can hear it, just the picture is frozen.
yeah, I think the Zoom's disconnected. It's restarting.
Oh, okay.
Well, as long as we can hear, we can continue.
Okay.
No, just 1 second. I'm just check.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, we are back.
Okay. Everyone's back?
yes.
All right. Excellent. So in terms of where we left off, was everyone on page 20 when we were going through the comparables?
Right.
Yes.
All right, excellent. So we weren't too far behind in terms of where we were. So as mentioned, we provided the comparables for each one of the sales that we've utilized. You can find that starting on page 20. Page 21, we have 1803 Main Street, as well as 1330 Main Street. And then finally on page 22, we have 1433 Arlington Street. So each one of the sales, so again, providing pictures of the sales that MP has utilized. Starting on page 24 to moving on to page 29, we have extracts from the Johnson report, just identifying the sales that we've utilized. And then starting on page 31, continuing to the end, page 53, is just information from the city of Winnipeg. This would be the valuation of income producing properties for the 2023 general assessment. With that, I conclude my presentation. I welcome any questions from the board or from the assessor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Ducharme, any questions for the applicant?
I do not have any questions, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
I have no questions, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan?
No questions, but Mr. Chair, I have a redirect for the assessor.
Certainly.
The question is with the, I'll call it the recommendation and revised sum, what is the actual price per square foot of this recommendation?
I haven't figured that out. I don't have, I guess I can use this. And so I can maybe just confirm.
Sure. Thanks.
I get $120.36.
120.36.
$120 and 36 cents in quotes. I have determined by my calculation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. No questions for the applicant then? I guess just clarification on your rental rate of $11.25. I don't see any comparables in this particular brief. Is that?
That is correct. So it was more so a function of taking a look at what the value we felt would be reasonable value based on the sales that are within the market, and then working backwards and calculating what a rental rate would be based on that.
Yeah, I thank you. Desire for summation, Mr. Ducharme?
I do not. Thank you.
Mr. Van Bruggen?
No, I think we're good. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And move on to item number 3, which is 94 Osborne. When you're ready, Mr. Assessor.
Thank you. This file number is 22-497 with a roll number of 120-803-00000. The address is 1330 Portage Avenue. For the roll year 2023 with a reference date of April 1st, 2021, we have an assessed value of $2,075,000. Parcel use is CMRST. The zoning is C2, and we have a leasable area of 17,350 square feet. Our recommendation is to maintain the assessed value. On page 2, at the top of the page, we have an aerial parcel view of the subject property on Portage Avenue at the corner of Craig in the Wolseley neighborhood. And on the bottom of page 2 is an aerial view of the subject property facing Portage Avenue. On page 3 is an aerial photo from behind the subject property. And on the bottom of page 3, we have our street view photo of the subject property facing Portage. Page 4 is the subject sale history. There's no sales history for the subject property. And below that, we have our rent comparables. There's some difficulty finding comparables of this size. Several of the comparables are in close proximity to the subject. Most comparables are zoned the same as the subject property, and all the comparables have the same influence of external corner and heavy traffic as subject property. On page 5 is our subject property market income workup. The property has a leasable area of 17,350 square feet, giving a potential rent of $198,016. We have applied a 6% vacancy loss, giving an effective gross income of $186,135. We have applied 3% expenses and a shortfall of $7 per square foot, giving a net operating income of $173,264. We've applied a cap rate of 8.35%, giving an estimated value of $2,075,000 rounded. On page 6 is our capitalization rate chart. Again, you'll note the 8.35% cap applied to the subject in this case is above the 80th percentile for all reports for retail. Page 7 is our Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. Pages 8 through 13 are the income and expense questionnaire submitted by the owner. The subject property is owner occupied. And that would conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, question for the assessor?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. If we can move to page 3, please, of the assessor brief. So when we take a look, this is you'd indicated this is a property of this. This is a subject property photo on the bottom of in front of the building, fronting Portage Ave, correct?
Correct.
When we take a look at this, you would agree that there's really not a lot of window space, I guess, or way to look into the property. Is that typical for a retail property?
No, that would not be typical in terms of the window space. No.
Okay. All right. So in terms of making that, in terms of that being appealing to a retail tenant, would that be more appealing to a retail tenant or less appealing to a retail tenant typically?
I wouldn't know. It might depend on the tenants. I'm thinking of perhaps marijuana shop. Sorry, for lack of a better term.
Fair enough. All right, and then I think that and when we take a look at this, this is on page 5. So these are rents from 2 stories, right? From the main story and the second story of the building.
For the subject bar, I can't recall for all single story or some might be second story.
Okay. All right, excellent. I think that concludes my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Thank you. Just in regards to the cap rate, I understand the cap rate would be modeled, like the assessment is all model driven, including the cap rate?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, and that cap rate above the 80th percentile would be because of the year that the property is built primarily?
Yeah, that would probably likely be primarily the reason why, an older property, and, you know, just general in the location as well.
Okay. That's all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan.
Yes, have you inspected this property?
I have not inspected this property for this, no.
Do we know when it was last inspected?
I have a note. I don't know if this was the last inspection, but there was some exterior work or interior work in 2005. That would be my best guess, 2005.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So it's all model driven, is that correct?
Yes, it's all model driven, yeah.
So the effective age from 1950 original to 1972, do you know whether that was a calculated age variant or was it just observed?
That was, I believe, the property did have some, in particular in 2005, there were some interior alterations and there was some work to the exterior at some point. I can't recall the exact time frame at this point.
Okay,
There was some exterior work on the exterior as well, the facing of the building. Went from brick to acrylic exterior.
Okay. And you have quite a few premise incomes here. I see substandard basement at 482. Do you know what the basement is used for?
In regards to my page 5?
Yes, page 5. You've got a breakdown of the different areas.
Yes.
Rents applied, and the second one is a standard basement. I just wonder what the
I don't have a basement for this property. So the premise ID 21295 is part of the second floor. The PID 21296 is the entire main floor, and then the following two PIDs are part of the second floor. We have them as C2 standard finish.
Okay. And what is the overall rent?
The overall blended rent would be 1141.
1141.
Yes.
Okay, I thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, when you're ready, we'll hear from you, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There is rebuttal for this property. So when would you like me to bring that in? Would you like me to present my presentation first or how?
We'd like you, yeah, you can have your presentation. We'll have questions on that and then we'll hear your rebuttal.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. If the board will turn me to page 3 of my submission. And just let me know when you're there.
Sorry, I'm a little slow here.
No rush.
Summary of testimonial evidence.
That is correct, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Such property is a 2-story retail unit built in 1959 with a gross leasable area of 17,350 square feet. It's occupied by, I believe, for the most part, it's occupied. Might be a small component of the second floor space that's subleased out, but for the most part, it's occupied by the same tenant. The property has been assessed at a value of $2,075,000. M&P is requesting a value of $1,535,000 for this property. The board will turn with me to page 5. On page 5, we have our retail value, our requested valuation for the property. As indicated, the year built is 1959. The leasable area is 17,350 square feet. In terms of the differences between M&P's valuation and the city's valuation, we are requesting a lower potential income for the property. The property has been assessed with a potential income of $198,016. M&P is requesting an income value of $165,346. That 6% vacancy allowance, 3% expense allowance, and $7 shortfall allowance have all been applied. And then the second difference deviation would be the capitalization rate. The property has been assessed with an 8.35% capitalization rate. M&P is requesting a capitalization rate of 9.35. Using these parameters, M&P is requesting a value for the property of $151,534,492, truncated to $1,535,000. The board turns with me to page 7. Page 7 and 8 are the income valuation from the City of Winnipeg Assessment Department provided. And then we have the physical characteristics on page 8 of that property with the 1959 year construction, 2 stories. Page 9, we have an overhead view or a property map provided by the City of Winnipeg Assessment website. Page 10, we have a satellite map of that property, and we have some overhead views on page 11. Page 12, we have some exterior views of that property. You can see the front is the property fronting Portage Ave, as well as we have a side picture on page on the bottom of page 12, and then a picture of the back of the building on page 13. So there you can see the brick is still on a portion of the building. The board will turn with me to page 14. On page 14, we have the rental rate request. So as mentioned, the property has been assessed with a blended rental rate of $11.41. This is comprised of main floor space as well as second floor space. It's M&P's position that the blended rental rate should be reduced to $9.53, based on the main floor rental rate being $10. Here we provided 3 asking rents for the main floor space. Now, just as a note, we as well had a bit of a hard time finding comparable similar leasing for a property this size and this location. We've identified some rent comparables that were available for lease. And here we determined that we've got 3 of them. The first is 5 Skirtfield Boulevard. It was posted on December 2019. It's 8,400 square feet. Asking rent is $12.95. Then we have 620 Narran Ave. January 20th is when it had been posted. 10,107 square feet and $9.95 for the asking rent. And then finally, we have 1030 to 1040 Empress Street. October 20th was when it was posted. 10,576 square feet of space, asking rent of $10. When we take a look at these 3, we have an average of $10.97, a median of $10. And taking a look at the rents, we see that there's roughly 2 that are at that $10 range. So we felt that $10 would be an appropriate rate to be using for that property. If the board jumps with me to page 25, I'll just give the board a moment to get there.
That's the Cushman Wakefield retail for lease.
Exactly. So it should be identified as December 2019. Here we can see the first comparable at 5 Skirtfield Boulevard. You can see the property is 8,400 square feet, or there's 8,400 square feet of space available for rent at a rate of $12.95. This property it's indicated is located on the corner of Skirtfield Boulevard and Waverly. It's kind of similar in terms of office warehouse space in terms of the type of building that we're seeing, at least the type of construction we'd be seeing for the property. The board will turn with me to page 26. On page 26, we should have a Cushman. We should have a retail for lease document titled retail for lease for January 2020. This again is from Cushman and Wakefield. If you look at the bottom there, you can see 620 Narren Avenue. You can see the area is 10,107 square feet, offered at a rate of $9.95 per square foot, indicated on the corner of Narren Ave and Gary Street. And then finally, if the board turns with me to page 27. On page 27, we can see 1030 to 1040 Empress Street. We can see that this building would be, so you can see that the area is, the building for lease is 1040 Empress Street, 10,576 square feet of space at a rent of at an asking rate of $10 per square foot. So this is shadow anchored by the Walmart Superstore in Roanoke. So fairly good location on that. So these are the rents that we've utilized. When looking at the main floor rent, we feel that a rate of $10 a square foot would be reasonable for that main floor space based on the comparables that we're looking at. We were looking at size primarily, as well as use of the property, trying to find something that would be similar in terms of retail use, and as close to the property as we could. If the board will turn with me to page 15, we have the capitalization rate analysis. So the subject property has been assessed with a capitalization rate of 8.35%. However, sales of similar properties, when we take a look at sales of similar properties, we can see that they would indicate a capitalization rate of 9.5 total. So we provided here a number of leases or a number of sales that have occurred along Portage Avenue. Again, when we're taking a look at sales, one of the things that we're always trying to make a determination of is what would be a more reasonable, what's the most important factors when looking at a property to determine comparability. In this case, we felt that location along Portage Ave was a primary consideration, given the nature of retail Portage Ave within Winnipeg. You can see here that we've got a variety of years of construction. I mean, they're relatively close, kind of ranging from 1926 to 1956, or I guess 1918 to 1956. We took a look at 1-story and 2-story buildings. We can see the building areas for these properties range from a low of 1,430 square feet all the way up to a high of 20,828 square feet. These properties have transacted between between 2017 and 2021. And when we take a look at the sale prices, of these properties has ranged from a low of $240,000 to a high of 1.8 million. Similar to what we had done previously, we've taken a look at these properties and applied what we feel would be a reasonable rental rate for these properties along Portage Avenue. So these rental rates range from a low of $10 a square foot all the way to $14.50 per square foot. Reason that so some of the reasons why we see lower rates on some of the properties at $10 and $10.25 is the size of the property. So again, we're looking at our subject property at 17,000 square feet. We feel that the main floor space at a little over 9,000 square feet should be assessed with a rate of $10. So we feel that would be reasonable. For typical retail space along Portage Ave, it's our position that a rate of $14.50 would be reasonable. And then for second floor space, we're looking at a break on the second floor, as we feel that second floor retail space would be rented at a lower rate. So that's why you'll see those second floor retail spaces with a blended rate. So the rents that we're using are a blended rent, and those are a little bit lower than what we see for main floor spaces. We're using a vacancy rate of 6% across the board, non-recoverables of 3%, expense shortfall of $7. Calculating the net operating income for these properties the calculated net income, it ranges from a low of $26,000, $26,319, all the way to a high of $200,678. Dividing these calculated net operating incomes by the sale prices, we calculate our capitalization rates. We provided those cap rates there for the board's reference. So the cap rates for these properties range from a low of 7.32% to a high of 11.15%. When we take a look, we're calculating an average of 9.34% and a median of 9.46%. So as indicated, again, as much as we would love to have the income parameters for these properties, that's just simply not possible. So we've used an approach very similar to what the city of Winnipeg has done by applying what we feel would be a reasonable rental rate for the property, applying a typical vacancy rate, non-recoverable and expense shortfall to arrive at our calculated NOI. When we're looking at our subject property, we took a look at all the information here. We identified that when we take a look at, we see that there's 4 two-story buildings that had transacted that are along Portage Ave. We can see that would be 2031 Portage, 633 Portage, 696 Portage, and 987 to 989 Portage. When we take a look at the capitalization rates these properties transacted with, they are, we kind of see that they're ranging from a low of 6.61 to a high, from a low of 8.28 to a high of 11.15. Taking a look at these 4 sales for 2-story buildings along Portage, we feel that a capitalization rate of 9.35% would be reasonable when we're looking at that property. So that's what we've used within our analysis. Additionally, if the board moves with me to page 16. So the subject property has been assessed at a value of $2,075,000, which equates to a value of $119,060 per square foot. When we take a look at similar sales, we have the sales there. We see that these sales kind of range from these are 2-story buildings that we feel would be reasonable comparables. And we see that these are ranging from about $86 to $116 a square foot, with an average of $98 a square foot. As M&P's requested value of $1,643,000, that value obviously had changed because it should be $1,535,000. Give me one moment here. I do apologize. M&P's requested value of $1,535,000 would result in a valuation of $88.47 per square foot, which would fall right in line with where we see those sales. Again, when we're taking a look at these sales, one of the reasons that we chose these is we were trying to choose larger buildings. Just because, again, when we take a look at the sale along Portage Ave, most of them were quite a bit smaller. Page 17, we have our conclusion. Again, in taking a look at the property, it's our position that the potential net income for the property should be $165,346. The capitalization rate applied should be 9.35%, resulting in an estimated market value of $1,535,000 for that property. Page 22, we have the lease comparables that we've used. So we've got just a couple exterior photos of the property along 5 Squarefield Boulevard. On page 23, we have 620 Nairn Ave. And then finally on page 24, on the bottom of page 23, as well as page 24, we have the property at 1030 to 1040 Empress Street. Just to show what those properties look like. Page 25 to 27 are the leasing brochures that we brought forward. Starting at page 28, we have the sales comparables that M&P had used. So we have 978 to 980 St. Mary's Road. This is one of the comparables for the sales. Then we have page 29, 1375 Portage Ave, as well as 969 Portage Ave. When it comes to the capitalization rate comparables, we have, you can find those starting on page 30. We have 2031 Portage Ave on the top, 1901 Portage Ave. Page 31, we have 1843 Portage Ave and 894 Portage Ave. Page 32, 633 Portage Ave and 1821 Portage Ave. Page 33, we have 1333 Portage Ave, as well as 987 to 989 Portage Ave. So again, those sales have been provided there. Each of the properties that have transacted along Portage Avenue that we used in our capitalization rate study. And then finally, starting on page 34, continuing on until page 48, we have the Johnson report. So this is where we got the sales that we've utilized in our analysis. Finally, starting on page 50, we have the City of Winnipeg's valuation of income producing properties for the 2023 assessment. That continues to page 73. Page 73, starting on page 73, we have the valuation of income producing properties provided by the City of Winnipeg for the 2020 general assessment, and that continues on until page 96. With that, we have, if there's any questions, we can certainly dig through. But with that, I conclude our presentation and welcome any questions from the board or from the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sharm, questions for the applicant?
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson,
No, I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Seelan,
No questions, Mr. Chair.
thank you. Just one question here on page 15. Your comparables for the capitalization rate. I know these aren't your sales comparables, but if you look at the two stories, 2031 Portage and 633 Portage, the two stories are both rental rate of $12.25. And then you look at the other two story at 987, 989 Portage, that's the other two story, and that rent is $13.07. So that's $12.25, $12.25, and $13.07, but you've chosen a overall rent of $10. Is that correct?
Yeah, so for the Suffolk property, what we're using is just to take the board through this. So for the properties that we found on Portage, for those properties that are smaller, so we're using a base rental rate of $14.50 for the main floor. For the second floor space, we're using a rental rate of $10. So the rate of $10.25 is a blended rent between the two spaces. For 987 to 989 Portage Ave, if the board will just flip with me, it's probably just easier to show versus explain. If the board turns to me to page 33, and just let me know when you're there.
Yep.
So you can see for 987 to 989 Portage Ave, the second floor space is only a portion. It's not the entire building. It's only just a portion of it. So again, we've used the same methodology of using $14.50 for the main floor and then $10 for the second floor. It's just simply because the blended rate is that $13.07, just because that second floor space is not across that entire building. So that's why you see a slightly higher blended rate. And then in terms of the second property, that rate of at that 969 Portage Ave. If the board turns with me, give me 1 second here. I believe the reason for that rate is being a little bit different is because, again, the space. So that's 20,828 square feet. So quite a bit larger. So again, when we take a look at that, we were using a lower rental rate, base rental rate. So it's primarily based on the size of the building, and the amount of retail on the main floor versus the amount of retail on the second, as we looked at it.
Yeah, I thank you. You had some rebuttal?
Yes, so if the board will turn with me, there should be a rebuttal document. I'm not sure if it's been sent out.
Yeah, I have to print it for Mr. Duchamp, Mr. Chair.
Okay, applicant rebuttal. I see two items.
Yeah, it's for item number 4, file number 497, Mr. Chair.
497 is the one we're
Yeah.
dealing with?
Mhm.
Okay, I'll give everyone a moment to get to that.
Are you able to bring it up here?
Yeah, I'll print it for you.
Or you print it?
Mhm.
Okay. I can,
Are you wanna use that?
if you want to.
I can.
That's easier for you.
Yeah, that should be easier for you though.
My assumption is you're rebutting the assessor's rent comparisons?
Yeah, so several of the assessors rent comparables were just providing.
Okay.
Just 1 second, Mr. Chair. Once we have to avail this for Mr. Duchamp. Can start this. I'll email you. That's okay.
Yeah.
Just a quick question. Was the rebuttal one of 97 pages?
7 pages, that's correct.
7 pages?
Yeah, it should be 7 pages.
Bear with me.
Yeah, I
Something,
believe it's the second applicant's rebuttal file, not the first one.
okay, just give me a second here. I'm gonna try to reload it. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
No, not a problem.
I can print it for you if you want.
Yeah, I don't need it. I don't know if I need my authenticator. I don't have my phone. Yeah, I'll try this.
Should we be taking a short recess here while everyone gets on board with this?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yes, Mr. Chair, I think that should be a good idea.
I need my authenticator.
Then
We'll
let's-
go on break. Yeah.
Let's call the 10-minute
Okay,
recess
thank you,
then.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'll call the hearing back to order. Mr. Van Bruggen, you were about to present your rebuttal for the
Thank you.
excess evidence. So when you're ready, please proceed.
Thank you very much. So as indicated, this is a rebuttal to the lease comparables used by, brought forward by the assessment department. So the board will turn with me to page 2. So the first lease comparable index 1 that the assessment department had brought forward on page 4 of their brief was for 1255 Sherbrooke Street. This lease started October 1st, 2020. It's for 12,475 square feet. And taking a look at the property, we've determined that this is an office, that this would be an office building. We provided a picture of that building there located on Sherbrooke. And then if we move down to page 3, you can see we provided an excerpt from the City of Winnipeg assessment search. The only thing that here that's of relevance is when we take a look at the property use code, it's identified as office versus the subject property, which is a retail property. So when taking a look at that, it would really be our contention that office spaces usually are a little different in terms of types of finish. In terms of the way the building's structured, when it comes to, and which again would result in a slightly different rent that the property would be generating. So we bring forward this as we just take a bit of an issue with that as a comparable. The second, if the board will turn with me to page 4. Page 4, we have the second index. So this would be index 2 from page 4 of the assessor's brief. This is 166 Osborne Street, Unit 4. So this is actually a radio station. So this is 92.1 CITI, so a radio broadcaster that's located within this space. You can see there that we provided the map there. It's indicating a Suite 4, 166 Osborne Street. So again, when we take a look at this, it would be our contention that just by necessity of the fact that there's going to be broadcast booths, and that there's going to be a lot of tenant improvements that are going to have to be put into the space to allow it to function as a broadcast unit, that this would be a little bit different. The rent that they would be charging would not necessarily be indicative of what we would see for a typical retail rent for the property. Finally, if the board turns with me, and you know what? I apologize. So I obviously had a half-formed thought as I see a picture on page 5 of 930 Narren, but I don't have any reason for any further information on that. So I do apologize. So please disregard page 5 and 6. That's clearly a half-formed thought on my part. So in that regard, MVP is bringing, it is MVP's contention that the leases for 255 Sherbrooke Street and 166 Osborne Street, Unit 4, would not be comparable to the subject property and should not be considered when looking at an appropriate rental rate. With that, that concludes my rebuttal. I welcome any questions from the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ducharme, any questions regarding the rebuttal?
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
And I have none. Thank you. Request for a summation, Mr. Ducharme.
No request for a summation. I do have a rebuttal for the Portage properties. I don't know if I should present that now or.
Sorry, a rebuttal for what?
In regards to the applicant's capitalization rate analysis that he used on page.
If you have a rebuttal, then now would be the time for you to present that.
Yes, yeah. Do you guys have that?
Yeah, I just put that into the folder, Mr. Chair. Emailed you.
Okay,
No, it was printed copy.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I can. Perfect.
Got it. I got it.
A&T rebuttal file.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And is this regarding all the Portage Avenue properties, or is this just rebutting this particular property?
The applicant used this capitalization rate chart analysis for all the Portage Avenue properties.
Okay, yeah, go ahead and proceed then, please.
Okay, so in regards to the first page, sorry, I didn't number them. I actually put 1330 Portage, but it should be 1901 Portage. The applicant used a sale date of 2018, January 5th, 2018 at $354,000. There was a subsequent sale for this property that was dated February 19th, 2019, which is also within the reference date, is closer to the reference date, and it sold for $610,000. As a frame of reference, if we use the net operating income provided by the applicant for that property, the cap rate would be 6.40% versus the 11.02% reported by the applicant. If we go to the next page, 894 Portage. The applicant used a sale date of June 20th, 2018 for $250,000. There was a subsequent sale for this property dated June 3rd, 2019, which is within the reference date for $302,000. As a frame of reference, if we use the net operating income provided in the applicant's chart, we would have a cap rate of 6.06% versus the 7.32% that was reported. On the next page for 633 Portage, the applicant used the sale date of 2018. June 6, 2018 for for $700,000. There was a subsequent sale for this property dated October 2nd, 2019, which is within the reference date. It sold for $1 million. As a frame of reference, if you use the net operating income applied by the applicant on this chart, we would have a cap rate of 6.72% versus the 9.61% that was reported. And on the last page, 696 Portage, there's a mathematical or procedural mistake when I input the parameters that the applicant used, such as the leasable area, the rent rate per square foot, the same vacancy allowance, same shortfall, etc. When I input those parameters, I get a cap rate of 10.33 versus the 11.51% that was reported. And our records indicate a leasable area for 696 Portage at 18,391 square feet versus the 20,828 square feet applied by the applicant. And this would further reduce the cap rate to 9.10%. And that would be all. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, any questions regarding this?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just Just quick, just more for clarification purposes, when I take a look, and let's choose page 1 just for simplicity's sake. Just so I'm aware, I see sale price and then SW value. What is SW value?
It means sworn value, in terms of our assessment, like, property may sell for a dollar, for example. But the actual value of the property, would be say $590,000. So I'm not sure what the 354 sale price involved. I'm not sure if that was an arm's length. I just know that the ones falling are all arm's length sales, not related parties.
And then do you know if there's any money put into the property prior between the two sales?
No, I'm not aware of if there was any investments for all these properties.
Okay, all right, so same, so that would be the same question for all properties. You're unsure of what the impact would be on the investments.
Right, but these are sale dates that are closer to the reference.
No, I think that, do you know if there's been, and do you know if there had been a change within tenancy within the properties from retail to restaurants or anything along those lines?
I wasn't able to determine that, no.
All right, I think that could, sorry, and then you had indicated that there was a mistake in terms of the calculation of the capitalization rate for 969 Portage.
Right, when we input the parameters that you had used the same shortfall, same expenses, same vacancy allowances, etc. You had 11.15% cap rate, and we, according to our calculations, comes out at 10.33 using the same gross area that you had used.
Okay, all right. All right, but then the capitalization rate on that you indicated is 9.1, correct?
That's when we use our records in terms of the square footage.
All right, excellent. Thank you. Good my questions.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
My only question was that first property that indicates 1330 Portage, what address did you say it was?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think when I did that, I was referring to the subject property in my mind,
Right.
but it's actually the 901 Portage that I meant to take for the sale.
Thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
I have no questions. Thank you. So now summation, Mr. Assessor, require that?
Thank you.
Mr. Applicant, require
No, I
that?
think we're good, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, that'll take us to item 4, which is item 3 on ours, 194 Osborne. So when you're ready, Mr. Assessor, we'll hear from you.
Thank you. The file number is 22-3571. The roll number is 120-212-06000. The address is 194 Osborne Street for the roll year 2023 with a reference date of April 1st, 2021. We have an assessed value of $1,522,000. The parcel use is CMRST. The zoning is C2. And there's a leasable area of 8,518 square feet. Our recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value. On page 2, at the top is an aerial photo of the subject property parcel located on Osborne Street at the corner of Gertrude Avenue in close proximity to Confusion Corner. The subject property is located in the River Osborne neighborhood. At the bottom of page 2 is an aerial photo of the subject property, which is at the bottom center of the photo. Page 3 is another aerial photo of the subject property from a different angle. And in the middle of page 3 is a street view picture of the subject property that's facing Osborne. And in the bottom picture, a street view picture of the subject property facing Gertrude Avenue. Page 4, we have the subject sales history, of which there's no recent sales. And below that are our red comparables. Several of the comparables are in close proximity to the subject property on Osborne Street. On page 5 is the subject property market income workup. We have a leasable area of 8,518 square feet. with a potential rent of $130,781. We have a vacancy loss applied of 6%, giving an effective gross income of $122,934. We've applied 3% expenses and a shortfall of $7 per square foot, giving a net operating income of $115,668, and applying an overall capitalization rate of 7.60%. We have an estimated value of $1,522,000 rounded. On page 6 is our capitalization rate chart. And again, the 7.60% that we applied is above the 80th percentile for all reports for retail. On page 7 is our Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. And pages 8 through 12 are the return income and expense questionnaire we received from the owner. And that will conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, questions for the assessor?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The board can turn with me to page 8. So this is the City of Winnipeg Assessment Taxation Department Income and Expense Mailer, correct?
Correct.
You'd agree that these are gross leases that are within the property?
Yes.
Okay. And then when we take a look at gross leases would be calculated by the fact that the landlord pays all the costs associated with it for the most part, and they're just getting one rate. Is that correct? There's no recovery for other costs.
No recoveries. Correct.
And when we take a look, the net operating income of $43,424, that's quite a bit lower than what the assessed income for the property would be. Correct.
The net operating income that he's reporting here, 434. Is yes, I agree.
Okay. I think that concludes my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Just wanting to confirm what the average square foot rate is that you're using for the potential rent. Is it $1,535?
Yes, that would be the blended rent. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. And this was all model generated, the assessment all driven by model?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and when was the last assessment of last inspection of this property?
It was, I believe, I was there last year. Licensing in a tenant liberty tax.
Okay.
But I didn't inspect for this particular hearing, but I was there last year.
Okay. Thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan?
What would you say the property condition was like in your opinion?
Yeah, basically just maintained. I would say it's just been the investment's just been maintained, and there's been definitely no significant improvements to the property. The 2 stories, somewhat newer, built in 1972. The other single-story portion was built in the 1950s, and it's kind of showing it's dated for the 1950s. It's just been maintained. That there have been no significant improvements to the property.
Thank you. That's all the questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. You inspected this property recently, you said, so what is the use of the basement in this property?
Unfortunately, I didn't get down to the basement in this particular case. My understanding is it's just storage. But I was there mainly just confirming a new tenant.
Okay.
In the property.
So that was for business assessment purposes?
Yes, it was business assessment. That's correct.
What about the storage mezzanine? Did you happen to see that?
No, I didn't inspect that. No.
Okay, thank you. And when you receive an income and expense questionnaire, a response to it, and it's gross leases. Does the department attempt to net that out, or do they just?
Generally, no. Generally disregard. Yes.
Okay, I thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, when you're ready, we'll hear from you, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And just for the board's reference there, just for the board's knowledge, there is some rebuttal for this. So I'm assuming we'll follow the same process as we had previously, where I'll present and then, okay. That was good. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The board will turn with me to page 3. We'll get started. So as indicated, the subject property is a retail building constructed in 1950 and 1972 with an effective age of 1966. The gross leasable area for the property is 8,518 square feet, includes 1,470 square feet of basement. The assessed value of the property is $1,522,000, and the value has been assessed using the income approach to value. It's M&P's position that value of $1,522,000 is a little high. We were requesting a value of $1,244,000 for the property. The board will turn with me to page 5. Page 5, we have our requested value there. So really the change between M&P's requested value and the city's is in regards to the capitalization rate. The property has been assessed with a capitalization rate of 7.6%. M&P is requesting a capitalization rate of 9.3%. Using this, plus the net operating income of $115,668, M&P is arriving at a requested value of $1,244,000. Page 7 and 8 is the information provided by the City of Winnipeg Assessment Department, just outlining the parameters for that property, as well as showing the area of that property. Page 9, again, is just the commercial section detail report for that particular property, showing the construction of the property. Page 10, we have a property location, which is the assessment map provided by the City of Winnipeg Assessment Department. Page 11, 12, and 12, we have some overhead views of that property from Google Maps, as well as Eagle View, just showing the location of that site. And then page 12, or then finally on page 13, we have some exterior photos of that property. Page 14, we get into the issue at hand, which is in terms of the valuation for the property. So as indicated, we've taken a look at the property. We've identified 4 sales of properties that we feel would be similar, located within similar areas. We've shown those properties there. We have 987 to 989 Portage Ave, 688 to 692 Osborne, 185 to 189 Sherbrooke, and 1250 Pembina Highway. See, these are retail or retail and apartment buildings, C2 zoning. Years of construction range from 1912 to 1952. Areas of these properties range from 5,040 square feet to 8,652 square feet. Sale dates of these properties range from 2019 to 2021, and we have the sale prices there. We can see the subject property has been assessed at a value of $179 per square foot. And when we take a look at these sale prices of these properties, we can see these properties are selling for values ranging from $106 to $159.50 per square foot. An average of 132 square foot with a median of 131. We've also provided a map using the City of 2019 traffic count for these particular properties. So you can see, and I apologize, it's going to be quite small in terms of the numbers. So we've outlined the location of 194 Osborne Street. There's about 29,400 cars there passed within a 24-hour period. We can see that 185 Sherbrooke Street has an average of 21,400 cars by in a 24-hour period, so very similar. As well as the board moves with me to page 15. We have 194 Osborne Street in very close proximity to the subject property. It is the subject property. And then we have 987 Portage Ave with 57,400 cars by on a 24-hour period. And then at the bottom, you can see 1250 Pembina Highway. And we can see that the number of cars by on a 24-hour period are 63,900 cars. So again, we take a look. The subject property has been assessed at a value of $179 per square foot. There are a limited number of sales within the vicinity. M&P has reviewed recent transfers of retail properties with similar attributes. These sales, as listed above, range in value from $106 to $159 a square foot. Considering the evidence, it's M&P's position that it fears the property has been overassessed, and this would lead M&P to a position that we should be looking at a value of $1,244,000 for that property. If we take a look at that $1,244,000, a second. That equates to a value of $146 per square foot for that property. So we're kind of right on the top of the end of the range of similar properties that we're looking within the area. If we take a look on page 16, we have the capitalization rate, or capitalization rate analysis. So again, we've done something similar to what we've seen before. We've taken a look at we don't, as much as we'd love to have the income information for each one of these properties, we don't. So we've taken a look and we've used what we feel would be an appropriate rental rate for these properties. Vacancy rate of 6%, expense allowance of 3%, and operating shortfall or operating cost of $7. Using that, we've calculated the net operating income. These net operating incomes range from $57,946 up to $97,107. Dividing this by the sale price, we get capitalization rates ranging from 7.04% to 10.99%. We get, taking a look at this, we have an average of 9.28% and a median of 9.55%. Taking a look at that, it would be M&P's position that 9.3% capitalization rate would be reasonable for the property. Page 17, we have the valuation of that property. So again, what we've done is we've used that 9.3% capitalization rate to arrive at a value of $1,244,000 for that site. The board will jump with me to page 20. Page 20, we have sales of the comparables that we've used in our analysis. So we can see the first one is that 987 to 989 Portage Ave. The second is 688 to 692 Osborne Street, so fairly close proximity to the subject property. Page 12, we have 185 to 189 Sherbrooke Street. And then finally, we have 1250 Pembina Highway. So again, we've tried to identify properties with with 2 stories. The sales we've used come from the Johnson report that can be found starting on page 23 to page 28. Page 29, we have a little bit of information about the property at 688 to 692 Osborne Street. So this is a sales brochure for that property. And it just shows, if the board turns with me to page 31, shows the various spaces. You can see that there's main floor space, which was an insurance agent and a barber shop. Second floor space, there was an art studio with some vacant space on that second floor. And then there is residential on the top floor of that building, the third floor of that building. Starting on page 36, continuing on until the page 58, is just information from the city of Winnipeg. So this would be the 2023 general assessment valuation of income producing properties. With that, that concludes my presentation. I welcome any questions from the board or from the assessment department. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ducharme, questions?
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson
I do not have any questions, thanks.
and Mr. Seelan.
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I have no questions. Thank you. You have some rebuttal evidence?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Do we have that?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just put that into the folder.
Just give me a second. I'll have to download it. Can you tell me the name
It was the second file with the applicant rebuttal file number 22-3571. Must be the fourth file from the top.
Fourth,
Fourth, yeah. Applicant rebuttal.
sure, is it 22-357?
35-6. Yeah,
7?
71. Yeah,
Yeah, sorry about that.
no problem.
Okay, everyone has the rebuttal now?
Yes.
Okay,
Take 10 pages.
it's 10 pages, correct?
That's correct, yes, 10 pages.
Thank you. I have it.
Okay, thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So in rebuttal, so this is in rebuttal to the rent comparables brought forward by the city. So the first is in rebuttal to 196 Osborne Street, so that would be index 1, with that you can find on page 4 of the city submission. So this property, this lease has started August 1st, 2019 for 5,000 square feet. That was at a rate of $23.36. Here we can see that this is actually for a co-working space, so it's identified as table space. If the board looks, we've provided some interior photos of that space. So you can find it on page 3, 4, 5, or page 3 and 4. Just by nature of the co-working spaces and how they function, typically they have a higher degree of finish within the buildings just to attract tenants. As their business model is to rent out the space and then rent that further out to tenants that use the space. So there's certainly going to be amenities such as kitchen space within the property, as well as a high degree of finish to make it attractive and enticing for tenants to encourage them to rent that space out on a short-term basis. So when we take a look at that, it would be really our position that looking at that level of finishes, that rent would be not comparable to what we'd be seeing as the subject property being able to achieve. The board would move to page 5. On page 5, this is our rebuttal for the second index brought forward by the city. So this is 166 Osborne Street, Unit 4. This space has been rented at a rate of $19.20. Again, when we take a look at this is rented by 92.1 CITI, so it's a radio broadcaster. When we consider the level of finish that would be required within the property, so there would be certainly broadcasting booths within the property that would certainly be pushing up that cost in terms of what the improvements are on the site. Taking a look at that, it'd be our position that those finishes and the additional costs required to allow the space to function as a broadcaster would not be comparable to what we see for the property. As such, the rental rates they would generate would be higher than what we'd be seeing as able to achieve in the subject property. Page 6, if the board will turn with me, is 108 Osborne. There's 2 leases from 108 Osborne that we're going to see. So there's 2 leases brought forward by the city on page 4 of their brief. So the first is 108 Osborne, Unit 1, and then the second is 108 Osborne. Not differentiated. So when we take a look, we can see that there's an Anytime Fitness within 108 Osborne. Again, when we take a look at a fitness facility, typically these fitness facilities have shower facilities, change rooms that need to be put in, a variety of finishes that are required. So again, when we take a look and try to determine whether or not that would be comparable, really be in a piece position that given the use of the space, it would not be, that leasing, the rent that they could achieve for an Anytime Fitness, given the types of spaces in the finish, would not be similar to what we'd be seeing within our property. And then if we go down to page 7, we have 108 Osborne, Unit 1. So this is a nightclub, or I guess event venue. So there's a stage, a bar, as well as we've determined that there is food service. You can see on page 8, you can see that it is minimal, but there is some food service there as well. Again, when we take a look at this type of finish that would be required for this type of space, it would really be our position that that wouldn't be comparable to what we'd be seeing as leasing for the subject property. As our subject property are typical retail tenants or office tenants, they would not necessarily be looking with stage venue, with a stage put in. They certainly wouldn't have bar service. They certainly wouldn't be looking at providing food to the people, food to people. And then finally, if the board turns with me to page 10, we have 2 Donald Street. So again, it's a little bit hard to say when we take a look at the rent comparables provided by the city. They've indicated 2 Donald Street, and it looks like Unit 1. Based on what we were able to determine, that looks like it's White Lotus Pet Spa or a pet spa within that building. Again, taking a look at that would be our contention that usually when we take a look at these pet spas, they're gonna involve kennels, they're gonna involve various washes, what have you, or various washing and cleaning facilities. So again, that would be different than what we'd be looking at. So needing a higher level of finish than what we'd be seeing for just a typical retail space, as what we see in the subject property. So again, when we take a look at that, it'd be our contention that the lease from 2 Donald Street would be a superior space, and the rent would not be necessarily reflective of the rent they can get from the subject property. With that, I conclude my rebuttal and welcome any questions from the board or from the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ducharme, any questions regarding the road?
No, I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson,
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Seaman,
No questions, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
thank you, and I have no questions. That'll bring us back to desire for a summation, Mr. Assessor,
No desire. Thank you.
Mr. Applicant.
I think we're good. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. That will bring us to item 5 on the docket today, 1838 Portage. When you're ready, Mr. Assessor.
Thank you. This file number is 22-545. The roll number is 070-200-31000. The address is 1838 Portage Avenue. With the roll year 2023 with a reference date April 1st, 2021. We have an assessed value of $804,000. The parcel use is CMRST, zoning is C2, and we have a leasable area of 5,033 square feet. Our recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value. On page 2, at the top of the page, we have an aerial view of the parcel for the subject property. And on the bottom is an aerial photo of the subject property facing Portage. Page 3, at the top, an aerial photo of the subject property facing east, showing the parking along the side of the building. And middle of page 3, we see a street view of the subject property facing Portage Avenue. And the bottom is a photo approaching the subject property from the west on Portage. Page 4, we have subject sales history, no recent sales of the subject property. And below that are the rent comparables. Several of the comparables close proximity to the subject property and zoned the same as subject property. On page 5 is our subject property market income workup. We have a leasable area of 5,033 square feet with a potential income of $66,245. We've applied a 6% vacancy loss, giving an effective gross income of $62,270. We have applied 3% expenses and a shortfall of $7 per square foot, giving a net operating income of $58,288. We've applied an overall cap rate of 7.25%, giving an estimated value of $804,000 rounded. Page 6 is our capitalization rate chart. Page 7 are the Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. And pages 8 through 14 are the return income and expense questionnaire we received from the owner. The property is partially owner operated by the owner. And that would conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, question for the assessor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. If we could just turn to page 2, please. So just to clarify, just a quick clarification, there is, I thought you mentioned the parking on the side for the property, but you'd agree that parking is on the second, not on this other property parcel, but rather on the adjoining property parcel, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so as far as you're aware, is there, again, is there any parking on the, or is there any parking spaces on the subject property?
No.
Okay. All right, if we can turn to, I think that actually concludes my questions. I'll deal with everything else through rebuttal. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson,
In regards to the property, when was the last inspection of this property?
I believe in 2015.
Okay, and are there any building permits on file?
Yeah.
Since, I guess, 2010 was the last sale.
Yes, there's been permits, yes.
Do you have a valuation of the permits?
Yes, there was, the valuation was for $203,291.
203, 291, and
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what year did you say the building permit was then?
That permit was issued in 2015. Actually, we were last there in August of 2016 after the renovations were completed.
Okay. So how would you describe the condition of this property?
The condition is, it would be above average for this type of area.
Okay, thank you very much. Those are all my questions.
thank you. Mr. Seaman,
No questions, Mr. Chair. My questions have been answered.
thank you. Could I just get a clarification, please? The overall rent? Let's see,
Would be $13.16 blended.
1316?
Yes, 1316, yes.
Thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, we'll deal with your direct evidence and then questioning and then the rebuttal.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The board will turn with me to page 3 of the brief. We'll get started. So as mentioned, the subject property is a 2-story concrete retail building constructed in 1955 with an effective age of 1970. Property has a gross leasable area of 5,033 square feet and has been assessed at a value of $804,000, which has been derived using the income approach to value. MP's position that $804,000 is a little too high. We are requesting a value of $611,000 for that property. If the board will turn with me to page 5. On page 5, we have a requested assessment for the property. So there's 2 components here that we're looking at changing. So the first would be the potential income for the property. So the property has been assessed with a potential income of $66,245. MP is requesting a potential income of $62,611 for them. As well, the second is the capitalization rate. The property has been assessed with a capitalization rate of 7.25%. MP is requesting a capitalization rate of 9%. Using this, MP is requesting a total, using the change to the potential income as well as the capitalization rate, MP is requesting a value of $611,000 for that property. Page 7 and 8 are just extracts, are information provided by the City of Winnipeg Assessment Department for that property, showing the valuation. Page 9, we have the property location. This is an assessment map provided by the City of Winnipeg. As well as page 10 and 11, we have some overhead views of that property provided by Google Maps as well as Eagle View. Page 12, we have some exterior views of that property from Portage Ave. And the board turns with me to page 13, please. So on page 13, we have our valuation for the property. The first issue is in terms of the rental rate. As mentioned, the property has been assessed with a blended rental rate of $13.16. After reviewing leasing for similar properties, it's MMP's opinion that the property should be assessed with a rental rate of $12, a blended rental rate of $12.44. This rental rate has been calculated by using a main floor space of $14.50. We provided 6 leases there, 4 from Portage, 4 from Along Portage, and 2 from Ness. You can see these spaces range in size from 532 square feet all the way to 3,650 square feet. Clear wall height on these ranges from 10 to 14 feet, and the effective year built ranges from 1975 to 1980. We take a look at the rental rates for these properties. The rental rates range from $13 to $16 a square foot. We've taken a look. We've calculated an average of $14.44 and a median of $14.53. Using this information, we've determined that a rental rate of $14.50 would be reasonable for the property. Additionally, when we look at the second floor space, it's MMP's position that a rental rate of $10 would be reasonable for that second floor space, given the fact that we know that second floor retail space tends to rent at a lower rate than main floor. So that's where we get a blended. So that's the first matter is it's in terms of the blended rental rate. MMP is requesting that blended rental rate to be adjusted to $12.44. Page 14, we have our capitalization rate analysis, which had already been discussed. I won't go through it in as exhaustive detail, but similar methodology is what we've seen before. We've used sales that have occurred along Portage Avenue. The sales range from about 1,400 square feet to 2,000, over 20,000 square feet. Taking a look at the sale price, we've applied a rental rate that we feel would be appropriate. These are based on a base rental rate of $14.50 for a main floor space, 6% vacancy rate, 3% non-recoverable, $7 shortfall. Use that to calculate the net operating income, and the calculated capitalization rates are there. So again, when we take a look at the property, we're looking at second floor buildings. When trying to determine what an appropriate capitalization rate for this property would be. So we're using 42031 Portage Ave, 633 Portage Ave, 696 Portage Ave, and 987 to 989 Portage Ave. Based on these, it's our opinion that a capitalization rate of 9% would be reasonable for based on how the capitalization rates for those properties. Page 15, we have our valuation. So here you can see we've used that blended rental rate we've calculated that's to calculate the $62,611 for potential income. We've used our capitalization rate of 9% to arrive at our estimated value for the property of $611,000. Page 19, we provided comparables for those properties. These are the lease comparables that you can find page 19. Page 20, you can see the leases these are the leases from 853 Portage Ave, 853A Portage Ave, and 857 Portage Ave. This property has been updated recently, rather extensively. So again, we feel that would be a reasonable comparable to the subject property. And then finally, starting on page 21, continuing on to page 25 are the comparables we've used for the capitalization rate analysis. Starting on page 26, continuing on until page 40, these are the sales which we've identified using the Johnson report. And then starting on page 41, continuing on until page 88, this is the information provided from the city. So we have information starting on page 42, continuing on until page 64. This is from the 2023 income valuation year. And then starting on page 65, continuing on page 88, this is information from the 2020 general income valuation year. We'll leave that in the event that there's any questions. But at this point in time, I welcome any questions from the city or from the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ducharme, any questions?
I do. On page 15 of the applicant's brief, to conclusion, you have an overall effective year built of 1955. Did you inspect the property?
No, we did not.
Were you aware that there was a permit issued in August of 2015 with declared construction value at $203,291 for interior alterations of both main and second floor, which included partition work, mechanical work, and electrical work?
I was not aware. No.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan?
No questions, Mr. Chair.
And I have no questions. You have some rebuttal, Mr. Van Bruggen?
I do, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Give us a moment to get to that, please.
Thank you.
Uh, That's file
545, Mr. Chair.
okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Do you have that, Mr. Seelan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, you have that?
Yes, I do. Thank you.
Okay. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just to confirm, we should be looking at a 7-page document, is that correct?
Correct.
Excellent. Thank you. So our first rebuttal on page, if the board will turn to me to page 2. So this is a rebuttal to the city's lease comparables. The first is for 108 Osborne Street, Unit 1. So again, when we take a look at this property would be, again, there's an Anytime Fitness located within there. And we take a look at page 2, and I apologize, this would be very small, but the purpose of this is when we take a look at that, we can see that there have been a number of interior alterations done to the space to account for the fitness facility. If you take a look at the information on page 2 at the very bottom, that last one there, you can see that there's alterations to the main and basement levels, demolition of interior partitions, new partitions for barrier-free washrooms, change rooms, shower areas, mechanical, electrical, and plumbing work. So there was quite a bit of work done for the space to make it useful for a fitness facility to go into. So when we take a look at that, particularly the inclusion of the barrier-free washrooms, the shower facilities, what have you, it would be our position that that would not be a given the cost associated with that, that would be pushing that rent up, and that rent would not be a reasonable comparable to use for the subject property. The next would be the next rebuttal of document rebuttal. If the page can turn, the board can turn with me to page 4. So here we have 3340 Portage Avenue. So this is the rebuttal for index 3 provided by the city of Winnipeg. This building leased October 1st, 2016 for 2011 year. It has a 2011 effective year of construction, $20 rental rate. We take a look, we can see that this is a Shapes Fitness, a rather new building. And we can also see on the bottom there that it's located within what would be the Westwood Village area there. So you can see that there's a number of other retail locations. So there's a Tim Hortons, Princess Auto, Giant Tiger, Five Guys restaurant located all around that property. Again, we're looking, when we see these types of properties, we expect the rents typically to be a little higher in a neighborhood shopping center or a regional shopping center than what we'd see for more standalone retail. Reason being is that you have more traffic being driven by things like the Giant Tiger or the Princess Auto. So again, that would allow it to generate a higher rent than what we'd see for a similar property. Finally, if the board will turn with me to page 305 or page 5, we have 3505 Roblin Boulevard. So again, when we take a look at this property, this is part of lease is part of a strip center. I believe the city has identified it as a regional shopping center. Again, we would expect to see leasing from a regional shopping center to be at a higher rate than what we would see for standalone retail, mainly because you're going to see more of a driving of more drive when it comes to tenants being attracted to the space. Additionally, when you look, you can see that there is substantial on-site parking for this property in front of this for the property compared to the subject property where we don't have any on-site parking. So again, that would affect the rents that can be generated and the attractiveness of the space. Page 6, we also provide an extract from the City of Winnipeg assessment website. Again, just highlighting the fact that 3505 Roblin Boulevard is identified as a neighborhood shopping center. So again, when we take a look at these leases, that have been brought forward. So that would be lease number index 1, lease index 3, and lease index 4 provided by the city of Winnipeg. We feel that these leases would not be comparable to the subject property and would not be representative of leasing that we'd expect. With that, I conclude our presentation, and I welcome any questions from the board or from the assessment department. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ducharme, any questions regarding the rebuttal?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson,
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Seelan,
I have no questions, Mr. Chair.
thank you. I have no questions. Desire for summation, Mr. Assessor?
Just like to remind the board, in regards to the capitalization rate analysis that the applicant had used, what applies also to this particular property, particularly the higher ones that he's indicated at 11% in his chart have changed.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, desire for summation?
No need. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Bring us to item number 6 on the docket, 956 Portage. When you're ready, Mr. Assessor.
Thank you. File number is 22-3570. The roll number is 120-816-45500. The address is 956 Portage Avenue for the roll year 2023. With the reference date of April 1st, 2021, we have an assessed value, $1,368,000. The parcel use is CMRST. The zoning is R2/C2, and we have a leasable area, 9,446 square feet. Recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value. Page 2 at the top shows an aerial parcel view of the subject property. It's on the corner of Portage and Lipton. Lipton to the west and Ruby Street to the east. The subject property is located in the Wolseley neighborhood on a corner lot. On the bottom of page 2 is the front aerial photo of the subject property. And page 3, top of the photo is an aerial photo of the subject property facing the back of the building. The middle of page 3 shows a street view photo of the subject property facing Portage Avenue. And the bottom photo shows a street view photo approaching the subject property from the west on Portage Avenue. On page 4, the subject sales history, there is no recent sales history. And then below that are the rent comparables. Several of the comparables are in close proximity to the subject property. Several have the same zoning as subject property, and several have the same land influences of heavy traffic and external corner as does the subject property. On page 5 is the subject property market income workup. We have a leasable area, 9,446 square feet, for a potential rent of 122,863 square feet. We've applied 6% vacancy, giving an effective gross income of $115,491. We have 3% expense and $7 per square foot shortfall, giving a net operating income of $108,059. And applying a cap rate of 7.90%, we have an estimated value of $1,368,000 rounded. On page 5 is our capitalization rate chart. Page 6, oh sorry, that was page 6. Page 7 is our Municipal Assessment Act excerpts. Pages 8 through 16 are the income and expense questionnaires we received from the owner. The subject property is partially owner operated. And that would conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, questions for the assessor?
No, I don't think I have any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson,
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Seelan,
What is your blended rate for the rent with
The
respect?
blended rate is $13 per square foot, $13 even.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. This is all model generated, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Van Bruggen, we'll hear from you, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The board will turn me to page 3, please. We'll get started. So the subject property is a concrete retail building constructed in 1956 and 1968 with an effective year of 1974. The gross leasable area of the property is 9,446 square feet, and the assessed value is $1,368,000, which was derived using the income approach to value. It's MMP's position that the valuation for the value for the property should be $1,144,000. If the board will turn with me to page 5, we'll get into the reasons why. So on page 5, we have a requested assessment here. So you can see here that there's 2 differences between MMP's request and what we've seen for the city. The city is using a potential income of $146,630. MMP is requesting a potential income of $117,225. As well, you can see that the capitalization rate varies. So the city has used a capitalization rate of 7.75%. MMP is requesting a capitalization rate of 9%. When we take a look at the estimated market value, using the change to the potential income, as well as the capitalization rate, MMP is arriving at a value of $1,144,000. Page 7 and 8 of the brief outline the income parameters used by the city of Winnipeg in the valuation of this particular property. Page 9 is the various sections of the property. And then page 10, we have the assessment map provided by the City of Winnipeg Assessment Department, just showing the property location. Satellite map on page 11, as well as some overhead maps on page 12. Page 13, we have the exterior view of the property, 2 exterior views of the property. Lots of using Google. As the board will turn with me to page 14. On page 14, we'll start with our first issue, which is the rental rate applied to the property. So the property consists of main floor and basement space. It has been assessed with a blended rental rate of $13 a square foot. It's MMP's position that the property should be assessed with a blended rate of $12.41 a square foot. To show how we came up with this, we've looked at 6 leases. These are the leases that we've already seen previously in our previous discussion. These spaces range from 532 square feet to 3,650 square feet. Year of construction on these ranges from 1975 to 1980. And the rental rates on these range from a low of $13.08 to a high, or $13 to a high of $16. The average and median on these is $14.44. Median is $14.53. Using this, it's MMP's position that a reasonable rental rate to be applied to the property, main floor property, would be $14.50. For the basement space, this is being used for retail purposes, but given the location, it's MMP's position that it would rent at a lower rate. We're in a position where you don't have windows. It doesn't have the same exposure as what you would have for main floor space. So it's our position that a rental rate of $10 per square foot would be reasonable to apply to leasable basement space that can be used for retail purposes. Page 15, we have the capitalization rate that we've seen previously. I won't go through this as I'm sure the board is familiar with the approach. However, as mentioned, we've calculated what a reasonable rental rate would be, applied a vacancy rate, non-recoverable shortfall, and use that to calculate our capitalization rate. From these sales, we're getting an average of 9.34% and a median of 9.46%. For this particular property, given the size of the property, single floor retail buildings, long portage, it's MMP's position that a 9% capitalization rate would be reasonable, and that's what has been applied. Page 16, we have the conclusion. So again, we've taken a look at the property. On page 16, we provided that our valuation using the blended rental rate for the property at $12.41, as well as applying that 9% vacancy rate to arrive at a value request of $1,144,000 for that. If the board, so starting on page 20, continuing until page 26 are pictures of the comparable sales as well as the lease comparables. We've already seen those in our previous submission, so I won't go through that. Starting on page 27, continuing on until page 41 is information from the Johnson report from when we got our sales. And then starting on page 42, continuing on until page 89 is the information provided by the city of Winnipeg. With that, I conclude my presentation and I welcome any questions from the city or from the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ducharme, questions for the applicant?
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
My only question, and it maybe the applicant or the assessor can answer this. I understand what was said is it's a one-story building with a basement. But I'm wondering by the pictures, is there not 2 stories? Like I know it's a high ceiling building, but is there not areas of that building that are 2 stories?
Who are you directing that question to?
I'm asking the applicant.
So I unfortunately I haven't been through the building. My understanding is it's almost kind of like a bi-level, where you have, you kind of go in and you kind of go upstairs to the main floor or downstairs to the basement space. But when you take a look at the basement space, you can see really there's only windows on the top of the building. The bottom part is all, there wouldn't be any windows, so you would have less visibility there for any retail tenants that are located there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I mean,
That's all my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan, questions?
Yes, the basement, is it fully used for retail?
I believe there is. Unfortunately, I can't say whether or not it's fully used. Certainly a portion of it is being used for retail. I don't know if the whole thing is being, or there's storage components down there as well.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I have no questions. Is there rebuttal on this one as well, Mr. Van Bruggen?
There is rebuttal, Mr. Chair. It should be a 5-page rebuttal. And it's going to be common for the next 3 files. So
Thank you.
How many pages?
should be 5 pages.
Thank you.
Which,
I'll just drop that in.
Sorry, which file?
don't think we-
It's sitting at the very top.
I'm sorry, I apologize. You're breaking up.
I said it must be sitting at the very top in the folder. Applicant rebuttal file number 223569.
No.
Not in there.
yes, it just came through now. I think it would be the 4th one down, Mr. Seelan, on our SharePoint.
Oh, it just came through.
Is that 5 pages?
That is correct. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. You can proceed, Mr. Van Bruggen.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So the rebuttal that we're providing is in rebuttal to the rent comparables brought forward by the city on page 4 of their submission. Specifically for index 3, that would be 3340 Portage Ave, and index 4, that's 505 Roldan Boulevard. We've already provided this information, so I won't go through it, but in as depth. But you can see the same discussion on 3340 Portage Ave. That's the newer building located within a shopping center. You can find that on page 2, as well on page 3. You can find the information previously provided for 3505 Roldan Boulevard. Again, taking a look at that, showing there is substantial parking on site as well as a strip mall, making this would be less comparable to our position that the rents that these buildings would be achieving would be less comparable to the subject property, which is a standalone property on located straight on Portage with no parking in front. With that, I conclude my rebuttal and welcome any questions from the board or from the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ducharme, any questions regarding this rebuttal?
No questions, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Anderson.
No questions, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Seelan.
No questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I have no questions. Summation, Mr. Assessor.
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Applicant.
No need, I don't think, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. So that will bring us to item number 7. It is 938 Portage. When you're ready, Mr. Assessor.
Thank you. This file number is 22-3569. The roll number is 120-821-01000. The address is 938 Portage Avenue. The roll year 2023 with a reference date April 1st, 2021. We have an assessed value of $1,659,000. Parcel use is CMRST. The zoning is C2. The leasable area is 12,111 square feet. And our recommendation is to maintain the 2023 assessed value. At the top of page 2 is a parcel view of the subject property on Portage at the corner of Ruby Street with Lipton to the west. This subject property is located in the Wolseley neighborhood. The middle of, or bottom of page 2 is an aerial photo of the subject property facing Portage Avenue. At top of page 3, an aerial photo of the subject showing the back of the subject property. In the middle and bottom of page 3, you'll see a couple street view photos of the subject property. Page 4, the subject sale history. There is no sales history for the subject property. And below that are the comparables. Several are in close proximity to the subject, several located on Portage Avenue, same as the subject. And several have the same land influences of heavy traffic, C2 zoning, and corner lots. On page 5 is the subject property market income workup. We have a leasable area, 12,111 square feet, giving a potential rent of $1,046,630. We have a vacancy loss of 6%, giving an effective gross income of $137 and $137,832. We have expenses 3% with a shortfall of $7, giving a net operating income of $128,610. We've applied a cap rate of 7.75%, giving an estimated value of $1,659,000 rounded. Page 6 is the cap rate chart that we've applied. Page 7, the municipal assessment excerpts, and page 8 through 16 are the income and expense information that was sent to us by the owner. And that would conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, questions for the assessor?
Just, if we can just turn to page 11. Do you agree that the leasing from this building is mostly gross? Or it would be all, or identified as all gross rents?
Yes, that's correct. It's, I believe, partially owner operated.
I think that concludes my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
What's the blended rate for the potential rent?
It would be $12.10 blended.
Okay, and when was the last inspection of this building?
It might have been, it was definitely 2012. There might have been some after, but 2012 in particular because of a permit that was issued for $276,000.
$276,000 was the building permit, and what did that building permit encompass?
They expanded into the 2 adjacent areas with work including partition work, mechanical work, electrical work, a new kitchen, new washrooms, new doors, new new millwork, new flooring and new fixtures.
Okay. And the type of business that operates there is a grocery store and,
Yeah, they sell groceries, they sell like prepared foods. I believe they offer cooking classes maybe from time to time. The basement, I believe, has a kitchen.
okay, there's a kitchen, okay, and
Yeah.
then there's some retail, the rental retail. Those are all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan?
Just to confirm, what was the year of the permit?
Sorry?
The year of the permit?
It was issued in 2012.
Thank you. That's all. Any questions?
Thank you. I would have to assume that there's been several renovations other than that in order to change the effective age to 1990 from 1933. Is that correct?
I'm not certain about that, but that would be the main reason why, due to that particular permit renovation in 2012.
All right, thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, when you're ready, we'll hear from you, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Board will turn with me to page 3 of our brief. So as mentioned, the property is a one-story retail building, has a basement constructed in 1933 with a gross leasable area of 12,111 square feet. Property has been assessed at a value of $1,659,000, which has been derived using the income approach to value. MP is requesting a value of $1,150,000 for the property. The board will turn with me to page 5. On page 5, we have a requested value for the property. As indicated, we have issues with two components of this valuation. The first is the potential income. The property has been assessed with a potential income of $146,630. MP is requesting a value potential income of $119,051. Additionally, the property has been assessed with a capitalization rate of 7.75%. MP is requesting a capitalization rate of 9%. Using the adjustments of the potential income and the capitalization rate, MP is requesting a market value of $1,150,000. The board will turn with me to page 7 and 8. This is information provided by the City of Winnipeg's Assessment Department. Page 8, you'll note that this, when it looks at the commercial building summary, that there is basement area as indicated, as well as main floor space within the building. Page 9 is a map provided by the assessment website of the subject property, as well as page 10 and 11, we have some overhead views, overhead maps of that property. Page 12, we have a couple exterior photos of that property. And then moving on to page 13. On page 13, we have our first issue, which is the rental rate that's been applied to the property. As mentioned, the property consists of main floor and basement space. It has been assessed with a blended rental rate of $12.10. It's MMP's position that the property should be assessed with a blended rental rate of $9.83. To arrive at this rental rate, we've looked at the main floor space. We've taken a look at leasing within the area. These are the same 6 leases as you've seen previously along Portage and Ness, ranging in size from 532 square feet to a high of 3,650 square feet. And leasing ranging from $13 to $16 a square foot. An average of $14.44 and a median of $14.53 per square foot. So using this, we feel that applying a rental rate of $14.50 per square foot would be reasonable. In regards to the basement space, it's an opinion that given this space is mainly used for storage, that a rental rate of $5 would be more appropriate to be applied. So we've applied a rental rate of $5. And that's been used when calculating our blended rental rate request of $9.83 for the property. Page 14, we've seen previously, so these are the sales along Portage Ave that we've used to generate our capitalization rate request. You can see, as mentioned, that the average of these sales is a capitalization rate of $9.34% and a median of 9.46%. For this property, we've viewed the sales and we've determined a capitalization rate of 9% seems reasonable based on that methodology. Page 15, we have our conclusion. Again, using the potential income for that property of $119,051, a 9% capitalization rate, we arrive at our requested market value of $1,150,000 for that property. Starting on page 19, continuing on till page 25 are pictures of the properties that we've used for lease comparables. Starting at page 26, moving until page 40 are the Johnson report that we've used for determining the capitalization rate analysis. And then starting on page 42, continuing on till the end of the document, page 88, are just documents from the city of Winnipeg. With that, I conclude my presentation and welcome any questions from the board or from the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ducharme, questions for the applicant?
Just in regards to page 15, the conclusion, I noted you have an overall effective year built in 1933. Have you inspected the property?
I have not. And so that was the leases we're using are not it's the 1933 is just simply the age that we put in terms of the year. The leases that we had used had been previously indicated the same as sales, so it doesn't really factor too much into the evaluation.
Okay. What ours, but that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Just in regards to the rental rates on page 13 there, the comparables, the 1855 Ness Avenue property, just in regards to those two leases, they're both expired now, right? They've both concluded? They're 5-year lease?
Yes, yeah, they would have both expired.
Okay, so they're a bit older than the other leases that still are in place, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, those were all my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan?
Just a quick question. You applied $5 for the basement. Is the entire basement storage?
No, so it sounds when we took a look at it, we felt that the basement was, in our opinion, the basement was mainly storage. It sounds like there is a component of the basement that is being used for events, but when we put this together, we were unaware of that. So we've just applied a $5 rental rate across the board to the basement space.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Any questions, Mr. Chair?
Thank you. Okay, I have no questions. The rebuttal that we heard for the last property applies for this as well. So can we just take it as asked and answered for this property and the next?
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Desire for summation, Mr. Assessor?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Applicant.
No, I don't think there's any need. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So that should bring us to the final item on our docket today, 1851 Portage. When you're ready, Mr. Assessor.
Thank you. The file number is 22-418. The roll number is 070-203-22000. The address is 1851 Portage Avenue for the roll year 2023 with a reference date April 1st, 2021. We have an assessed value of $1,676,000. Parcel use is CMRST, zoning is C2. We have a leasable area of 11,766 square feet. We do have a recommendation to decrease the assessed value to $1,505,000.
Thank you, Mr. Ducharme. Were you aware of the recommendation?
Unfortunately, I did reach out to the owner. I found out about it last night, late yesterday evening. I did reach out to the owner, but unfortunately, I was unable to hear back. So,
I'd like to proceed then. Thank you.
Top page 2, an aerial view of the subject property parcel on Portage Avenue between Roseberry and Collegiate Street. At the bottom of page 2 is an aerial photo of the subject property facing Portage Avenue. Page 3 at the top, an aerial photo from the back of the subject property. And the middle of the photo on page 3, a street view photo of the subject from Portage. And the bottom photo is approaching the subject property on Portage from the east. Page 4 is our subject sales history. There was a sale in January 21st, 2015, being the most recent for $1,280,000. Our records indicate that was an arm's length sale by unrelated parties, and was confirmed by the property sale questionnaire we received. Below that's the rent comparables. Several of the comparables are in close proximity to the subject. Several have the same zoning as the subject, and several have the same heavy traffic influence as the subject. On page 5 is our subject property market income workup, which has changed since the recommendation. I'll just walk you through that. For the first premise ID 34083, and the reason we changed it is we felt the rents were too aggressive. The model rents for this property were too aggressive. So the rent changed for the first premise from 1802 to 1549. And that changed the potential rent from 93,632 to 80,486. The next premise, the basement, the rent changed from $3.25 per square foot to $2.79 per square foot. And that changed the potential rent from $17,258 to $14,815. And the last premise, the rent changed from $19.88 per square foot to $17.09 per square foot, changing the potential rent from $25,049 to $21,533. This gives us a potential rent of $135,939. We have a vacancy of 6%, giving an effective gross income of $127,783. We have expenses of 3% and a shortfall at $7 per square foot, giving a net operating income of it changed from $119,008 to $101,588. The cap rate did change. The model changed it from 7.1 to 6.75. And we have an estimated value of $1,505,000. Page 6 are the cap rate charts. Page 7 are the municipal excerpts, and pages 8 through 11 are the return income and expense questionnaires we received back from the owner. And that would conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen, question for the assessor?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. If we can turn to page 8. Page 8, you would agree that it looks like it's a gross lease that's in place for the property, correct? Correct. And when we take a look at the net operating income, you'd agree that we're at $66,405, which is quite a bit lower than the assessed net operating for the property, correct? Correct. Okay. I think that that concludes my questions. Thank you very much. Oh, wait, sorry, one more question, Mr. Chair. I apologize. If we can turn to page 4. So in terms of the sale of $1,280,000, do you know if that included any additional land parcels?
I do not. I believe there is a vacant parking lot that is used by the property at 203 Collegiate. That would be included.
That would be included. Okay, and that's a separate legal. That's a separate legal title.
Yes. Same ownership.
Same ownership or separate legal title. So there are two. There's a building and then as well as a vacant land parcel that transacted, correct? For that 1.28 million.
I'm not certain if that included it, but I would assume so.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson?
Thank you. With the change, the recommendation to reduce, what does the blended rate become for the rent?
Yeah, I can figure that out. Sorry.
I heard the number and it sounded the same. I understood that you said 135,939 for potential rent.
Think, the actual potential rent, I might have mispronounced. It's the actual
Okay.
potential rent should be 116,834. I think I added.
Okay.
Instead of 116, I put 136, which was
Okay.
actually, sorry, my apologies.
But that doesn't change the recommendation?
No,
Okay,
the blended rate is now, I got 993.
993. Okay. Okay. And your new effective gross income then? Do you have that?
Sorry. Sorry. Minute. Sorry, I got 109,824.
109,824?
Yeah,
Okay.
for effective gross income.
Okay, so when you change the amount of rent then, does it drive the model, when you made that change, does it drive the model to change the cap rate too, or did you trigger a cap rate change as well?
No, the model actually did change it, yes.
Okay, to 6.75.
Yes.
So when was the last inspection of this property?
The last inspection, I'm not sure this is a new building that was built in 2011. I believe it was a fire, and then it was rebuilt from the ground up in 2011. Actually, in 2015, I guess we have a permit where we confirm new electrical, new plumbing. I guess that would have been at the time that it might have been completed.
Okay, and the value of that permit?
I believe 300,000. I believe I got a note here. I'm not sure if that's correct. I can't say for certain.
Okay,
But
okay. Thank you. Those are all my questions.
Thank you. Mr. Seelan?
What's in the basement?
It's finished, but there's it's got low ceiling heights. It's this maybe being used for storage, if that. It's not a leasable space.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. So your recommendation is based on, did you change the quality of the property for the model to recalculate? Is that what was?
Yeah. I mean, it's a new building built in 2011. However, it's still in the area it's in, and the rents in that area. We felt the model was aggressive. It's kind of, I think the model's applying the building age in there, building in the building age. So we reduced it to apply more to the general age of the area.
Okay, but I'm a little confused why the cap rate would drop from 7.1 to 6.75.
Yeah, that would be a model generated drop. I'm not certain why that would be, other than there might be more potential investors for pool for a property that's less. I'm not sure. I'm just kind of guessing.
I'm just confused because the age hasn't changed, the rent has
Yeah.
gone down, the area is still the same. I just wonder what other component it could possibly be to drop the cap rate.
Yeah, looking at that, maybe it could have kept it the same. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Van Bruggen,
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
please.
Excellent. If we can start on page 3 of our submission, we'll get started. So the subject property, as indicated, is a concrete retail building constructed in 2011. It's indicated that has a gross leasable area, or it has been assessed with a gross leasable area of 11,766 square feet. Originally, the assessment for the value was $1,676,000. MVP is requesting a value of $1,119,000. If the board will turn with me to page 5. On page 5, we have our requested assessment for the property. So we're using a slightly smaller area of 9,446 square feet. So the retail, the main floor retail space has remained the same. The difference is the basement space in terms of the amount of space that's being considered. There is mechanical space within the basement, so we have not included that within our overall calculation of the area of the building. As your opinion, that mechanical space shouldn't be considered as gross leasable space. Our issues are in regards to the potential income for the property. So MVP is using a potential income of $96,349, as well as the capitalization rate. MVP is using a capitalization rate of 7.5% versus the assessed cap at that point in time at 7.1%. Using these parameters, MVP is requesting a market value of $1,119,000 for the property. Page 7 and 8 are just the valuation provided by the city of Winnipeg when it comes to this property. Page 9 is the assessment map provided by the city of Winnipeg. Page 10 and 11 are overhead views, and page 12 is a street view from Portage Ave, as well as from the back of the property. Page 13, we have the rental rate. So at this point in time, originally the property had been assessed with a blended rental rate of $11.55. MP's opinion that rental rate should be a blended rate to $10.20. Based on the information we had, we've identified the same 6 leases as we've seen before, where we had seen leasing ranging from $13 to $16. Using this, we're calculating an average rental rate of $14.50 or 44 cents and a median of $14.53. Again, it'd be our opinion that a blended rental rate, an average rental rate of $14.50 for the main floor space would be reasonable. Additionally, when it comes to the basement space, we provided a picture of the basement space on page 14. So you can see there's a number of columns, as the assessor indicated, a low wall height for that space. Really, the only thing useful for that space would be storage, not useful in any other way. As well, we can see on page 15, there is mechanical space down there. Similar, again, much lower finish. Again, not really suitable for any other use beyond mechanical. So using this, that's where we're slightly different in terms of the overall area of the building that we're looking at. So the main floor space is the same, but we are looking at a smaller basement space for that. So using that blended rate of $10.20, that's how we get to our rate. That's how, and the overall area of the building, that 9,446 square feet. That's how we get to our potential income of $96,349. Page 16, we have, again, we'll see the capitalization rate study we had seen previously. Taking a look at these sales, these are all on Portage Avenue. Same methodology as previously mentioned when coming to the capitalization rate. We see these sales have sold for an average of 9.34% and a median of 9.46%. Understanding that these are So when we've taken a look at the property, we've determined that it's a newer property. We feel that a capitalization rate lower to the bottom or closer to the bottom end of the range would be reasonable. The lowest sale within this trend was that 7.32%. So we feel that a 7.5% capitalization rate would be appropriate to the property for the property, which is what was applied. Page 17, we have the value approach valuation for the property. So using the leasable area of 9,446 square feet, the potential income of $96,349, the capitalization rate of 7.5%, we arrive at a value request of $1,119,000 for the property. Starting at page 21, continuing on to page 27, we have the information for the properties there, the lease comparables as well as the sales comparables. Page 28, continuing on to page 42 is the Johnson report, and then starting on page 44, continuing on until the end of the document, page 90 is the information from the City of Winnipeg Assessment Department. With that, I conclude my presentation and welcome any questions from the board from the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ducharme, questions for the applicant?
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson,
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Seelan,
No questions, Mr. Chair.
thank you. And the rebuttal is the same as the last two files, so we can take it as presented and any questions asked and answered. Is that correct?
Yes, please, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, desire for summation on this property or in general, Mr. Assessor?
Just that the rebuttal for the cap rate analysis previous applies to this property. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Applicant, desire for summation on this property or in the properties in general?
No, I think we're okay, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, I thank you very much for your presentations, gentlemen. And we have heard all the items that are scheduled, and this hearing is now adjourned.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Everyone.
No.